The stage is set, and on that stage are the most famous names in open-wheel racing in North America. After a nightmarish 7-week federal tax evasion trial in Miami, Elio Castroneves returns to the cockpit today alongside Penske teammates Ryan Briscoe and Will Power. All the cars and stars of the IndyCar Series are here in Southern California. The Grand Prix of Long Beach. For 35 years, sounds here have echoed through the stands, where legends have tasted victory.
Al Unser Jr. wins at Long Beach.
It's the mother of the street circuits. You had Monaco and then Long Beach, California.
Stars have been born here.
Michael Andretti has won.
Where I won my first race and my last race. When you have those memories, it doesn't get any better than that.
Today, it's a new chapter.
It's still Long Beach.
Such a famous race.
Place where so many great drivers have shown their talent.
It's Long Beach.
For the first time, IndyCar stars race side by side at one of the longest running straight races in the world.
California, it's LA.
You want to be there.
The race has got a tremendous amount of history with F1 going there, IndyCar car.
Grand Prix at Long Beach.
Long Beach. Long Beach. Long Beach.
California.
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 It's more than just a race.
It's an event.
Race number 2 of the 2009 IndyCar Series, just a few minutes away from the green flag. Welcome to IndyCar Central on Versus. She sailed from Southampton, England, across the North Atlantic for the first time May 27, 1936. In 1967, she retired and steamed toward Long Beach, California, where the Queen Mary is permanently moored as a tourist attraction. 8 years later, the streets of Long Beach began hosting auto races. Formula 5000, Formula 1, Kart, Champ Car. It's become the most enduring and popular street race in the Western Hemisphere. And today, for the first time in its 35-year history, the fans have come to see the IndyCar Series. And you will be here for every exciting moment of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach today on Versus. Hi everyone, I'm Bob Jenkins. It's hot in Long Beach. Record high temperatures expected today, but there's also excitement in the stands and along pit lane because all the cars of the IndyCar Series are here. For a time, it was looked like that Elio Castroneves would not be here, but Friday afternoon, he was acquitted of 6 of 7 counts of federal tax evasion, and a mistrial was declared on the 7th count. Emerging from the courthouse with Sister Kati, the emotional Castroneves spoke briefly with the media and then left for Long Beach, California, arriving at about 6:30 in the evening. When he arrived at the track, he was greeted by fans and media, all congratulating the two-time Indy 500 winner. Teammate Will Power had shaken down the car Friday, but Elio was allowed to practice in both half-hour sessions Saturday morning. There was a scary moment as Justin Wilson and he nearly collided in turn 1. Castroneves hadn't attended the driver's meeting and was not aware of the fact that he needed to stay to the right of the yellow line. Couple of brushes with the wall during qualifying and then a big hit in turn number 1. He complained of a headache. And IndyCar Series medical director Dr. Michael Olinger said he would reevaluate Elio's medical condition this morning. Let's find out what happened as we go to our pit strategist, Jack Arute.
Well, thanks, Bob. And Elio Castroneves making the long walk to the cheers. Let's find out as we get ready for driver introductions. How is the headache?
Oh, no headache at all. Actually, I'm really surprised that, I was a big crash yesterday, and I thought gonna be sore, but the only sore I am, it's like the muscles that I haven't been using for 6 months, and. But I'm so glad. The guys did a phenomenal job, put everything together, and this morning car was in perfect shape, so we're ready.
Could you explain to people, Elio, the emotional roller coaster that you have been on in the last couple of months?
Man, it's so hard to describe. It's difficult to tell people. But the only thing I can say is thank you for everyone, for the prayers. Again, for me, it's just so awesome, and I had fair trial, you know, and I have to say that I cannot thank enough those people that really gave me good message. So thank you from my heart.
You got back in the cockpit and it looked pretty good. Was it like a duck back to water?
It took a little time. I have to put some WD-40 in my arms to, you know, to keep moving, going around. But I tell you, it's nice to see everyone here. You know, it's so nice to be back in my environment. You know, enough about objection, over rules, you know, sustain. I like this, oversteer, understeer, and pedal to the metal. This is the time of the stuff that I understand, and I'm really glad to be here.
Well, Elio, good luck to you today.
Thank you so much, Jack.
You know, one of the great things, Elio Castroneves had a good fill-in, and in fact, when he was back in the number 3, it was a last-minute entry by Penske Racing for Will Power. No worries, though, as they say down under for Will Power, because he's here to defend his Long Beach title.
4 red lights are lit, a standing start a la F1. Will Power makes a huge start as he jumps to the outside, and he will contend for the lead.
Charges on to turn number 1.
Justin Wilson on the left of your screen. Will Power dives for the lead and gets it. Will Power right now in control.
Will Power is the leader. The checkered flags are out. There's the win. Donuts for everyone, courtesy of Will Power.
When you talk about the history at Long Beach, the last Champ Car race you won it, I know that was special to you, but I know you want to make history and be the first IndyCar, winner here this week as well.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, we've got the perfect starting position. As you know, anything can happen in a race, but we'll be doing our best. Got a great crew behind me, and the team's done a fantastic job to swap everything over onto this car.
The Verizon car, the first time we've seen Verizon on an Indy car. I know you want to race more in this car, but as of right now, you're only signed up for the Indy 500, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm doing this race in the Indy 500, and we'll see what happens. You never know.
Yeah, it looks like you were holding back a lot yesterday. You come out there with a very strong qualifying run, taking that pole award. What actually happened to you on pit lane? Nobody heard from your mouth what happened to say Peter, else you might have been up there near the front.
Yeah, I was trying to jump Franchitti in the pits, real close behind him. As he pulled in, I saw my crew was in black and Dixon's crew was in red, and I went for the red, and it was my mistake, a bad mistake for me.
And it happens, guys. He's on right into pit in, and now let's go to my partner, Lindy Thaxton, who's with the series points leader, Ryan Briscoe.
Ryan Briscoe, the current points leader, but I know you were disappointed when you left the track yesterday. Last year, you were the only driver to make it to the top 6 at every street course. You're starting 10th today. It's tough to pass here. What do you need to do?
Well, firstly, starting 10th, I'll be in the thick of it going into turn 1, and we need to try to get through safely the whole first lap. But this morning in warm-up, the car was really good, and I think I'm going to have a good race car. So just got to keep cool heads, pass when the opportunities arise, really make good pit stops. I've got the best pit stall in pit lane, so we're going to try to take advantage of that today. And with Roger calling my strategy, it's always very good. So hopefully we can just keep our nose clean and keep moving forward for the rest of the day.
You say when you put the red tires on, you lost the balance of the car. You're starting on reds today. Is there any concern of that today?
Well, I hope not. Yeah, I was a bit surprised yesterday. Our first set of reds was really good, posted some really quick times, and then in Q2 we went to our second set, and they just came in like 2 to 3 laps later. They just felt a lot harder. I don't know what the deal was, but we ran on them this morning, and it all felt good. We won't use the ones we ran in qualifying yesterday just to be safe, and we'll just see how consistent the reds are today, and we've always got the blacks, the harder tire to go to for the second and third stints if we need to.
Ryan Briscoe, your current points leader.
All right, thanks, Lindy. By virtue of his win at St. Pete 2 weeks ago, Ryan is atop the point standings. The top 10 represented 9 different teams. Only Team Penske put 2 drivers in the top 10, Briscoe and Will Power. And speaking of Will Power, he won the final Champ Car race here last year.
And he gets it.
He won in the streets of Surfers Paradise to end last season. Now Ryan Briscoe wins the opening event of the 2009 season.
This place has been bad to me, and just feels so good to finally get to the end of this race. The race really just fell into our hands. Roger just pulled an amazing strategy once again, and it's just a great feeling to kick off the year like this.
The battle toward turn number 1. Look at this, 5 wide as they head in there. Who's going to come out ahead?
Tony Kanaan, I don't think he was trying to go and win the race in the first corner, but he got on those rumble strips, and that put him right into Rahal, but what a tough break.
You expect from a guy like Kanaan that has got so much experience, you know, why make a move like that on the first corner of the season? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
You know, Graham tried to avoid the contact and he had to come to a stop. I had nowhere to go, and then I ended up taking him out and take myself all the way to the back.
I caught lap traffic into 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the middle section, and I tried to pass him down the back straight, and he kind of came down in the kink, which is what slowed me up. And then just going down into the fast chicane there was just, there's no room. There's not room for two people there. It was a brave maneuver that did not make it.
There you go. Look at Dornbos looking down the inside of Weldon going to, contact!
I got a real good run on TK out of the last corner on the restart. Anytime you pass TK, it's a challenge, and I braked just a little bit late, and it just kind of bottled me up. And going into 4, Graham had a go at me, and I thought I left him enough room, but you know, unfortunately we touched.
Dornbos and Weldon.
And that was Power got in there too. Andretti made contact as well. We have seen it all.
So that was 14 days ago, but for Graham Rahal, it was a left turn that bit you on lap 1. How concerned are you about lap 1 down here I mean, that was a right-hand turn, on a left-hand turn here?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here. And I mean, Long Beach is notorious for first turn crashes, and I just hope that we can keep the McDonald's car out of trouble. I mean, we got a couple of guys ahead of us who could be interesting to watch, and certainly right around us, it could be plenty of action. And so really, you know, the key for us is we've got to make it through turn 1. And we've got to get this car home.
This is the first race at the Long Beach Grand Prix that Paul Newman is not with us. I understand you, though, have some special guests as members of the Newman-Haas-Lanigan team this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of, you know, Paul's family and friends are here this weekend with us. And this has always been one of his favorite places. And so, you know, they all came out to visit us. And it's exciting. And, of course, we want to do well for them and try to carry the tradition of success for this team along. And especially here at this racetrack. And so, you know, for us, really, I think the key is to put the McDonald's car up front, and I think that we can do it. It's going to be a long day. 85 laps around this place. It's awfully hot, so we'll see.
So for Graham Rahal, he hopes this day is a little better than 14 days ago. Lindy Thaxton is with another man that hopes likewise.
Same story here. Rafael Matos, you were not able to finish St. Pete after a crash with Danica in lap 32, but you give a lot of credit to your crew for getting this car back together. Got you a career best starting position of 3rd and the best starting position for your team.
Yeah, definitely. All the credits goes to Air Force, Luxor Dragon crew. The team did an amazing job. They worked very hard the past week, and I'm just very proud and very honored to be representing our sponsors today. You know, everyone in that team deserving being in that position today, and hopefully we'll have a clean race and we'll collect some great points today.
You have decided to start on the black primary tires. Everyone around you in the top 10 is starting on the reds. Why did you decide to do that, and does it concern you that everyone around you will be on those alternates?
Well, for sure, we felt we have plenty speed on the blacks, so hopefully we'll be able to be running with the guys on reds as well. And also we're trying to save our reds for the end of the race, so hopefully we made the right decision. Our strategy looks pretty good, and I'm just looking forward racing against those guys and hopefully finish my first IndyCar race.
Rafael Matos starting a career best 3rd. Robbie?
It was a big day for the underdogs at St. Petersburg. Ryan Hunter-Reay finishes 2nd, the best finish ever for Vision Racing, but also just behind him, Justin Wilson, Dale Coyne Racing taking their best ever finish. And coming into this event, a lot of people are looking at you because they say, hey, St. Pete, you do that well with that little preparation going into it. What can we expect from you here?
Well, we were not happy with qualifying at all yesterday. You know, it's great to be back at Long Beach, but we made some big geometry changes to the car today. This morning in warm-up, it was a completely different race car. So I was happy with it. So I'm hoping that that'll reflect on our pace today, and hopefully we can do similar to what we did at St. Pete.
It was a big week at St. Pete, but also maybe an equally as big week for you here because of the engagement.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get engaged this week, and you know, to Becky, and we've been together for 5 years. Met here in Long Beach actually 5 years ago. So yeah, definitely happy, and found a great home here at Vision Racing, and we're looking at really building a platform for the season. You know, we're second in points right now, so we're looking at the future for sure.
Congratulations on that engagement. A big week here. A lot of history is going to be made. History's already been made. Elio Castroneves is back in IndyCar racing. We've heard about that. But what about maybe his biggest nemesis? Word is that Paul Tracy is coming back to IndyCar racing. We'll find out more when we return.
Welcome back to IndyCar Central right here on Versus. For over 35 years, this has been the place to be in Southern California. On Shoreline Drive, for most of the year, the speed limit is 45 miles an hour, but as this massive crowd will witness today, the speeds will have to accelerate to almost 200 miles an hour. Most of the year, you'll get a ticket if you go over 45. Today, on this stretch of road, if you don't hit almost 200, you'll be forgotten. A reminder, the Stanley Cup playoffs on Versus, every second counts, and tonight at 7, the St. Louis Blues head to their home ice to take on the Vancouver Canucks in Game 3 of their series, and then, hey, how about a doubleheader? At 10 o'clock, after getting shut out by the Ducks in Game 1, the top-seeded Sharks need to win at home. Game 2 of the California Clash starts at 10 Eastern tonight, right here on Versus. Since we joined you at St. Pete, there has been a lot of IndyCar racing news. In fact, the announcement that John Andretti is going to bring the king. Yes, that's right. Richard Petty will be coming to the Indy 500. The old number 43 will make its first appearance as part of a Dreyer and Reinbold racing effort at the Indianapolis 500. Earlier this week as well, Paul Tracy announced that he will be competing in the Indianapolis 500 with possibly a score to settle. But they're just a couple of the cars that will be making their way to the Indy 500. The field of 33 looks like it most likely will happen. Andretti, Sharp, the addition of Davey Hamilton coming back, and of course Scott Sharp making his return. But we're joined right now by a guy that likes to say that you're basically a defending Indy 500 champion because the last time you were there, you say you got hosed.
Well, you know, if you look back at the video, and I've seen some of the Versus highlights of the closest finishes in the series history, and if you look where the yellow light came on, I had about 16 feet on Helio. So, you know, I definitely feel like I got robbed from one there, but that was during the split era. It's back together now, and it's been frustrating being out of a car, but I got to thank Geico for giving me this opportunity to get back in a car. And, you know, without them, I wouldn't be going to the Indy 500, and I also got to thank my sponsors, Monster and CEC Wheels. So, you know, I'm going back there with one single-minded purpose, and that's to win and get myself back in the series full-time.
You know, one thing, Paul, you're never at a lack for words, and you came out here to make the announcement, and then all of a sudden what seemed to be you having center stage, your nemesis, Elio Castroneves, cancels Christmas on you again. How'd you feel about that?
Well, you know, I was so excited to make my announcement, and it was almost like watching Versus those bull riders get trampled by a bull. That's kind of how I felt right in the middle of the press conference. Helio's decision came down right in the middle of my press conference, which kind of, you know, thwarted it a little bit. But, hey, I'm happy he got off. I want to compete against the best guys out there. And, you know, like I said, we're going back with Geico, and we're going there to win. And if that happens, then hopefully I'll be back in the series.
All right, let me ask you a question. I've known you for a number of years. You've won here at Long Beach, but there are guys that say you're too old, and with age comes slowness. What do you got to say to all of them? Just look right in the camera and answer it.
I got to call BS on that, because if anybody saw how I ran at Edmonton last year, straight off the couch, I finished 4th there. So, you know, it's definitely frustrating for me not being out here on the grid. You know, I've raced here 18 years in a row. I had my first ever start here. I had my first win here, so it's definitely gives me an uneasy feeling not being in the race, but, you know, we'll concentrate on Indy and see what we can do there.
And we'll get that face on the Borg Warner Trophy.
Yeah,
nice to have you back, Paul.
Thanks.
You know, in Southern California, cars and speed have always been something that has gone with the sun and the sand. Earlier this week, Dario Franchitti got a chance to visit with one of Southern California's most famous collectors, Jay Leno.
How you doing?
How are you?
What's going on?
How you been?
All right.
Good?
What's happening?
Good to see you. Hi, guy. Oh, hello. You know, listen, I'm going to have a little bit of Grand Prix history, too. You know, the idea was you buy it, and then you get to the race, you take off the fenders, you take off the lights, you race, and then you drive it home. I mean, I love that era when you could drive something to Le Mans and then just drive it home again.
This is the 20th anniversary, Indianapolis, 1932. There's Henry Ford, that kid right there. That's Henry Ford II. That's him right there. That's the field in 1932, 20th anniversary. Kind of cool.
Michael Andretti's first race.
Yeah. I remember one year, Parnelli Jones was with me, and Parnelli was sitting in the passenger seat. And he says, all right, you just put your foot on the gas and I'll drive. And we had a Monte Carlo, that's what it was. Nice. So Parnelli's got his hand on the wheel like this. He's going, okay, and he's hitting the gas. I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and he's doing this, and he's got it floored, and we get up to the wall, and the mirror, on the outside mirror, he's going like this. He's just touching the wall with the outside mirror from the passenger seat. And when we pull in, I could go like this and get the paint from the wall off the mirror. He was that close. He was just touching it from the passenger seat, and I realized I could never do this. For most men, race car driving is like sex. They all think they're good at it until you talk to the women, and they go, no, not really. And you know what? You know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Well, hopefully Ashley has no idea what Jay's talking about. Dario, I know this is a fun league for you, but also I'm hearing something about a side bet between yourself and Tony Kanaan. What's that all about?
My little Brazilian buddy did his usual and sat at home and came up with this crazy idea that if he wins a race first, I've got to shave all my hair off. If I win the race first, he's got to grow it. So the good thing is for me, people have seen me with no hair. They haven't seen him with his whole fro thing going on. So hopefully I'll get the race won, and TK's going to have to grow it out.
Well, aggressive on the start at St. Pete. We expect more of the same here. You're starting outside.
I did notice this morning that everybody was practicing their braking zones into turn one, so I think I might have started something there. But the key's going to be get through turn one okay. It's really tricky here. We've seen it many times in the past, so hopefully we'll be okay, and we can get the target car to the front, and we'll see what happens.
Will chooses that inside line probably because that's the best line going in. You probably have the more aggressive line where all the rubber's laid down. Do you look at that as well?
It depends where Will picks up the throttle. If I can get alongside Will, I think I've got an advantage going through that long shoreline bit, but we'll see. A long day out there. We don't want to lose it in the first lap.
Things are definitely going to get interesting into that first turn. Outside into that first turn, Dario Franchitti next to Will Power. But a lot of history here at Long Beach. 35 years of open wheel racing. Names like Andretti, Unser, Tracy. And we kick off even more history. The first time the IndyCar Series comes to Long Beach here shortly.
Welcome back to Long Beach, a place with plenty of history. The IndyCar Series is the fourth open-wheel series to run on this circuit, starting with Formula 5000. After that came Formula One, and then CART and Champ Car took to the streets of Long Beach. 170,000 people here for this three-day event, making it one of the biggest sporting events in the United States. It's a place that has sent some of the biggest names in this sport to victory lane.
The history of Long Beach really is it's the mother of the street circuits in North America. You know, you had Monaco as your first original street circuit, and then the next one of any prominence at all was Long Beach, California.
Al Unser Jr. has won the Toyota Grand Prix at Long Beach.
Being able to win it 4 times in a row, it was just phenomenal, and really Southern California has been truly good for the entire Unser family.
It's been special to our family. Michael won his first Champ Car race there.
The Andretti name still tops the order.
This is where I won my first race and my last race in my career in IndyCar, so it's been pretty special. And for me, I was able to win Formula One and of course in the IndyCars. So when you have those memories, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Looking at the numbers between Mario and Michael and Al Unser Jr., they have collected 11 wins and 8 pole positions here at Long Beach. But Michael Andretti is in a new role this go-round. He is in Danica's ear, calling her pit strategy. We followed the pair at St. Pete.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Just another 9 laps. Give us another 9 laps. 2, maybe 3 more laps.
So interesting to hear her say in the pre-race show, shocking to me, I'm going to try to get less angry this year. I mean, that has been her motivator.
Yeah.
She has become angry because that gets the adrenaline going. So it is a tricky dynamic.
Matos right behind Danica, tries to make a move. They touch, and both are hard into the wall.
Big crash.
That was a very, very low percentage place to make a pass. Yeah. Obviously, he had a run because of traffic, but that's a very low percentage move.
Are you okay?
I told him, I'm like, this is crash or fail. You crash all the time. I don't crash. Well, I asked him, when was the last time you passed somebody in the fast chicane at speed? None, because it doesn't happen. I didn't get a great run out of it, but it's never enough to pass.
Hey, you were doing good up till then, man. We were looking good.
Yeah, it always happens like that, doesn't it? Sorry, guys.
I was looking in my mirrors and I saw him. He just wasn't all the way up next to me, and it was a brave maneuver that did not make it.
Michael Andretti about to begin round 2 with Danica, and as we saw, a frustrating start to the season, and actually only 4 times have Andretti Green drivers been in below the bottom 10 starting when you've had a 4-car team. You know this track really well. What needs done to get your team up to the front and stay there?
Oh, I think we're going to need a little luck. I think, hopefully, the yellows will come out at the right time and we'll be able to take advantage of that and change our strategy from what the leaders are doing, and then it'll work out for us, hopefully. But, it's a difficult place to pass, and when you're in the back like that, we got to try to be a little creative.
You're in a new role now, and obviously you're preoccupied when you're here, but does your history creep into your head during these times?
Well, there's something about this place. I mean, it's great being here. For me, it's really special. It's where I won my first and my last race in my career, and my father's got great success here. So it's a special place for us. I think it's so great that we're here. I think it's so important for our series to be back in Long Beach. It's one of the best events in the world, and I think it's so good. I'm so excited about the future.
Michael Andretti, good luck to you today.
Thank you.
And next up, the 2008 champion Scott Dixon has had a rough start. We talked to him when we come back.
Five wide as they head in there. Who's going to come out ahead?
It was a tough day, you always had to try and outbrake somebody into one or some other area, and in turn 1 you had little marbles everywhere, so as soon as you got inside, you generally picked up speed instead of slowing down.
Will Power went past his box. Scott Dixon is losing a ton of time. They still don't have him in his spot. Once you lose track position, then you're back there fighting with people that you really shouldn't be.
Yep. Look at his left front. His left front was stuck and obviously is broken. So when he goes to go right here, put the load on the left front, it must not work.
Yeah.
Scott Dixon qualifies in 6th place, but things look better than that earlier on in the day. What happened in qualifying?
The target cars, both of them definitely started out quite well, and I think I was quickest out of the first 2 qualifying sessions, and then we kind of slowly slipped back, and I think I burnt the tires too much on the reds in Q2, and we got to the last qualifying, and I just had nothing left. The tires were done, and a lot of the other guys stepped it up a little bit, so a little frustrating, but all in all, to have both target cars in top 6 is pretty good.
We know the difference between the reds and the blacks are supposed to be a bigger difference this week. How are you noticing them from St. Pete?
There's definitely, for the first 5 to 10 laps, I'd say double from what we had at St. Pete. I think we had about 4 tenths or 5 tenths at St. Pete, and they're about 8 tenths quicker here. So it's definitely going to be interesting, I think, to see the split at the start. There's a lot of people on different options there. So, the biggest thing for us is to try and work out how long those red tires are going to last, and hopefully they last really well on the target car.
Well, he's looking forward to today, guys. The defending IndyCar Series champion, Scott Dixon, starts in the 6th spot.
Scott Dixon hoping for better fortunes today here in Long Beach. Bob Jenkins with you again with my booth mates, Robbie Buell and Jan Beekes. It's been great being here in Long Beach at the racetrack and even walking down the streets of Long Beach during the evening. There's excitement in the air. What's it like for a driver to compete here, Robbie?
Well, the history and tradition here. If there's an oval race that you want to win, it's pretty simple. It's the Indianapolis 500. You want to win a street race? Here it is in Long Beach. For me as a driver and as a fan, to have Mario, Michael Andretti winners here, Al Jr. has won 6 times, it's just an awesome venue. It's electric. I love being back.
And part of it, Robbie, you talk about the legacy of Long Beach. Part of it is how hard this race is to win.
It's a place that rewards aggression. Now, that aggressive style helps you in qualifying, but that's what you need in the race. It's a very, very hard place to pass. You have to use that aggressiveness, roll the dice, take a risk to move up towards the front. And I can tell you, Bob, on a hot day like today, it's going to be a tough day at the office.
The big story, of course, is Team Penske. Now, Will Power guaranteed only one more race, that Indianapolis. How is this going to impact the whole series?
Well, I think for Will Power, in a way, it's a breath of fresh air. Sure, he would love to race a lot more races, but now he's not keeping a car warm for somebody else. He has his own entry, and Robbie, he's put the car in the pole position, and 12 times out of the 34 years this race has been run, that's where the winner has come from. So half the job's done.
You're right. Half the battle's done. He's starting up front. That's what needs to, that's where you got to be. But now he just needs to focus on this race. I'm sure he wasn't real happy about the answer that Elio got back with his job, but now he needs to focus on his job here and bring it home for Team Penske. No mistakes.
It's time for predictions, and we're 0 for 6, guys. Last week wasn't one of our best performances. I'm going to pick, I'll go first, I'm going to pick Dario to win the race today, and the next first-time winner, I'm going to go with E.J. Viso until he wins. Robbie?
I like that, but I'm going to throw to Jan first just to hear what you got to say.
Okay, well, it's already on the graphic, so he's made his decision. But I also am going to go with Dario. Dario fixed their problem about wearing down tires. I think he's the man to beat. I pick him as the winner. And how can he not pick Will Power as the first non-winner? Because he won here last year, but not officially in IndyCar.
Okay, to be a little bit different, I like Dario, but Ryan Briscoe, he's won the last 2 street races. I think he's got a good connection going. I think he can get it done. The guy that is my choice for non-winner is running really strong, Rafael Matos, a young driver. He won here in 07 Atlantics. I think he can get it done.
Jack, we know who. Why did you pick who you picked?
Basically, guys, the reason I picked who I did is I got to get the points, okay? So I said first-time winner, Will Power. Will Power won here in the Champ Car finale. I think he's going to win here, win an IndyCar as well, and really put Roger Penske in a bind when it comes time to Kansas. What about you, Lindy?
I'm going with Dario. It's his 7th time driving here. He's got a best finish of 2nd, and his engineers tell me he knows every inch of this track surface like the back of his hand. Best finish by a non-winner. I'm going to go Will Power, obvious reasons, and also in case he does win, which I think he could, I'm going to get points either way. Robbie?
I'm going to double up on what you said about Will. I think he has a very good chance of winning, but I think he'll be the top non-winner. On the other hand, the guy that's just to the right of him, I think he's going to be super aggressive. Watch that start. He's stuck on the outside. If Will pushes it too much, he's going to take them both out. But I think Dario Franchitti, as we've talked about, aggressive is what it takes to win here. That's what Jan said. I think Dario's going to get the whole shot and take the victory.
And there you have it. We hope we do better than we did 2 weeks ago in Long Beach. Thanks for joining us on IndyCar Central on Versus. The crowd is ready, and so are we. The command to start engines is next from the streets of Long Beach, California. The Grand Prix of Long Beach. From F1 to kart and the Champ Car Series.
Michael Andretti has won his first IndyCar race.
It's the mother of the street circuits. You had Monaco and then Long Beach, California.
Today it's the dawn of a new day with the sounds and speeds of IndyCar.
It's still Long Beach. Such a famous race.
Place where so many great drivers have shown their talent.
It's Long Beach.
It's one of the longest running street races in the world and a new generation for IndyCar.
Prix at Long Beach.
What a beautiful setting. The crowd is ready. We are ready for the 35th running of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, and we are with you on Versus for this 85-lap event. It is much hotter today than it has been since we arrived. In fact, we could have record high temperatures here this afternoon in the low 90s, but the fans are well shaded. They're ready for the action, and so are we. The guy who will give us the command is the Executive Director of Motorsports for Bridgestone Firestone North America, Al Spire.
It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome back the Executive Director of Bridgestone Firestone North America, Al Spire, as he gives the command.
Drivers, start your engines!
Row 1, call them off. Row 1, both cars hot. Row 2. Row 3. 4, hot. 5, hot. Row 7, hot. 8, hot.
And they go all the way back to row number 12. The cars are fired, and we're getting set now for 3 pace laps before we get the green flag and the start of today's race. Will Power, an incredible story since this whole thing began on really Thursday afternoon. Will Power practicing Elio Castroneves' car, taking it to P1 in practice, and then bringing out a car that he had never driven and puts it on the pole.
And the whole mental roller coaster of that for a driver, what a great job he did to get into a second, to get into a totally different car after being quick in the number 3 car that Elio's now in and putting it on the pole. Just shows you that when a driver can get in the cockpit, they got this great ability to flick the switch and do their job.
And Robbie, you mentioned it in the open in that he is a great qualifier, but now he's got the toughest job of all. He's got to bring it home. He did it here last year, but this is a whole different can of worms.
And he needs to do it for Team Penske. Bring it home for Roger.
The high-rise condominiums are filled, and
Power's not rolling.
Power not rolling off the starting grid. We heard the IndyCar Series officials say that row 1 was hot, but he didn't roll away.
Well, just because I said roller coaster didn't mean that he needed to finish that off with
dip,
the big 120-mile-an-hour dip.
Wow. Well, we don't see him coming out of pit lane, but hopefully that car will get going and we can have our regular starting lineup here.
And just because he hasn't started right now, if they get him refired, he can weave his way back up the field and assume his position.
Through the fountain area, this is turns 2 and 3.
Here he is, right in the center of the screen, so they got him running.
Carries Verizon sponsorship on the car. It'll be number 12, so he is running and in the middle of the field, and as Robbie said, he will weave his way up to the front.
That's a bit of a whew.
Yeah, no kidding. Just adding another chapter to the drama that we've had all weekend long here. Will Power won the Peak Performance Award, his first career pole in the IndyCar Series. His previous best start came at St. Petersburg in 2008. Great job by Will. This is the 42nd, by the way, pole position for Team Penske in the IndyCar Series. And remember, this year, the pole sitter is getting 1 point for being on the pole. All right, we got about 2.5 laps before the green flag. Plenty of time to get down to Jack and see what the strategy he's going to be talking about in today's race. Jack?
Well, guys, remember when Michael Andretti told our pit reporters that he may have to go a little bit off what the norm would be? I think what he's talking about is trying to get off sequence. Here's the way I break this one down, guys. I think as narrow and as tough as it is to pass on this racetrack, if I'm not with the front pack, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to try on what they call short pit. You can run this race in 2 pit stops. The windows are real wide. So what you can do is you can either short pit on the second stop or you can short pit on the first stop. I think if I'm Michael Andretti in that Andretti Green combination, I'm going to bring my guys in a little bit earlier than maybe that 19 to 24 lap window and then roll the dice a little bit in hopes that maybe I might be able to win some positions on a track that is tough to pass on by bringing my guy onto pit road. Let's check in with Robbie Thaxton. I mean, Robbie Floyd.
Yeah,
Sorry, Robbie.
I'm married already, Jack. My wife's last name is Floyd, but I got an update on the Verizon team already. A little problems, communication problems. Evidently, the wire's not hooked up underneath the side pod going to the antenna. That's why they don't have communication. I'm not sure if that's why they stayed here, but they were searching for everything, maybe looking for other helmets, anything else to try and help the communication system. They're scrambling, but guys, it looks like it's maybe just one simple little plug that's not hooked up that's causing them problems right now, and that's big, especially here.
Here's the tire selection. Of course, they have to run at least 2 green laps with the red alternate tire, but it looks like most of the field has chosen to start on the reds.
And, you know, at St. Pete, Jan and I kind of disagreed with this. I think, you know, all these guys starting on reds up front is good. But, you know, it's the last 30 laps of this race that matter. So, you know, that doesn't concern me right now in terms of what your choice is. I think you just got to set yourself up, and it ties all in with the strategy that Jack was playing. There's so many variables here of trying to get out of sequence and just making that right call. It's endless, Jan.
Now you talk about sequence, and that's why the radio is so important for Will Power, and you can see they're going to the pit board. Now a lot of teams have a pit board out there anyway in case of a radio failure, but when you're trying to call strategy and you drive for Roger Penske, or in this case Team Penske, making those calls, John Erickson will be on the radio to, well, not on the radio, he'll be on the radio to the signboard man to get that information to Will Power, because today when you pit, as Jack said, that's going to be key.
Through turns 10 and 11 onto the front stretch. Our Mobile One track conditions show you right now the air temperature is 88 degrees, but it's expected to go into the low to mid 90s by the time the day is over. Our track temperature up to 121 degrees, but there is very, very little humidity in the air. Here's our starting lineup. Couple of drivers having their best qualifying performance ever. Rafa Matos, EJ Viso had their best qualifying performances in their IndyCar Series career. Alex Tagliani and Ryan Briscoe, the winner at St. Pete 2 weeks ago, back in row number 5. Marias and Weldon in row 7. Robert Dornbos, Newman Haas Lanigan Racing in row 8 with Mike Conway. Hideki Muto had a big crash in practice. Darren Manning is in the Dreyer and Reinbold car this week. And there you go back to row number 11. And bringing up the rear of the field will be Ed Carpenter. On board with kind of a unique perspective, Marco Andretti. On board here with Ryan Hunter-Reay, who had such a great performance at St. Petersburg, finishing in the runner-up position. Elio Castroneves will carry an onboard camera. And he is finally where he wants to be, in the cockpit of a race car. Justin Wilson will carry a camera. He too with an outstanding performance at St. Petersburg. And here's the guy that you want to keep an eye on. The series champion of the Firestone Indy Lights last year, Rafael Matos, and he will be starting toward the front of the field today in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Off of corner number 11, the cars will begin to move side by side down the front straightaway. Here they come. The 35th running of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. And the Apex Brazil green flag is out. Here we go. Turn 1, a hard left-hander.
And Power got a great jump. Franchitti has already lost 2 spots.
Pretty sorted out up through the top bunch there. Get through it, guys. A lot of racing left. They are.
Oh, it's tight in the fountain. That's Kanaan to his left.
Oh, that's tight right there. Kanaan had to back off. Elio gets the spot.
Kanaan carrying Dr. Pepper collars on the car this weekend. It's red and white. Don't confuse it with the normal green that he normally runs. Matos has moved to second position. That's Justin Wilson third.
In a way, he inherited that from Dario Franchitti, who had an awesome start in St. Petersburg, but here it just looked like he was left when Power took off.
Off on the backstretch, the second fastest portion of the racetrack.
It is, and they're coming into turn 9. Look at the bumps under braking. Watch these guys bounce around and braking. Everybody there, we've seen all kinds of trouble as guys go to the brake pedal there and basically miss the turn. So that's going to be a key spot as this race unfolds.
Ooh, EJ Viso Easy to spot that bright green number 13. He was really strong into the hairpin.
Alex Tagliani with a wiggle there coming through turn number 11. On board, Rafael Matos running second to Will Power.
By the way, my pick, just to point it out, my non-winner,
Yeah, well,
Rafael right there.
It's
Just
early.
One lap complete, Robbie.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Well, we're a fan also that they're all still running after lap 1. Traditionally, there are big issues when you have a street circuit and you're trying to get everybody funneled down, but that was a great first lap. Now, it's not one of these things where, hey, I got knocked out in the first lap. Everybody's got a shot here as they get sorted out to go for the win.
And this turn 1 here in Long Beach is much harder, much tighter than the turn 1 at St. Pete. And we had all kinds of problems at St. Pete. I think maybe the drivers learned a lesson.
Well, they also were told a lesson from Brian Barnhart at the drivers' meeting saying that, look, you're professionals. I know you were rusty in St. Pete. Pull it together here in Long Beach, and no one wants to crash out in the first corner of the first lap.
But psychologically, too, at St. Pete, we were on that runway. You had all that extra tarmac, so it sucks you into thinking you can get away with more. Here, it's tighter with regards to the walls. You don't just have that visual perspective as think, I got plenty of space.
Now, talking about tight, did you see how close Justin Wilson, remember that's new colors, not the same colors we saw the car in St. Petersburg, the black and red Z-line entry. He was right on the gearbox of Rafael Matos in the hairpin.
And he's getting close there. Remember, of this top 10 pack, that car of Matos, the blue and silver car, he is on black sidewalls.
Oh, look at that. He ran up right under the rear wing. Jack?
After that St. Pete wreck, Rafael Matos was gathered up with his owners, Jay Penske and Steve Luxo, and they sat him down in what we called a debrief. First, they got over the perfunctories of what were you thinking when you collided with Danica Patrick, and then they cited an adage of the late Sterling Moss, the great Formula One champion, and shared it with Matos as a Formula One devotee. He said, Moss always said, to finish first, you first must finish. They told him he had to use patience. He's exercised that patience since he hit the pavement here in Long Beach in practice, qualifying, and now in the race.
And when you talk about patience, Jack, he has to be patient. Robbie, you mentioned he's on the black sidewall, Firestones, the only one in the top 10 to choose that, and now he is going to be slower initially than those on reds, and if he's patient, the car will get faster as the way I think they will.
Maybe be slower. Let's just see. He really likes his cars on black. But that's what I'm saying. These first 10 laps of measuring against Rafa Matos on those black sidewalls to everybody else, this is going to help kind of lay the groundwork for what strategy is going to be.
Well, I'm just saying he's slower right now at this moment, which was why Justin was climbing all over him. But as each lap goes on, he should get faster. Those on red should get slower.
Great point. Great point. Especially we're at record temperatures here. What are track temperatures? 121 degrees already?
Right ahead of Elio Castroneves. Good battle. That's Graham Rahal just ahead. EJ Viso's ahead of Graham.
Now, Graham is running a different setup than Elio. We might be able to see a little bit on some of the straightaways in that Graham is running a little more downforce. So when he gets on shoreline drive, Graham is going to be a little bit slower, but in these sections right here where you're really leaning on the car, they're taking more downforce and keeping the thing nailed aerodynamically.
Lost Elio's camera there for a moment. Everything's cool, though.
Yeah, and this is a really good place to measure what Jan was talking about.
Look for Franchitti, though. Franchitti's making a move on the outside.
Justin Wilson.
He's got a wheel there.
Franchitti looking for third. He's got the right line, and he'll take third spot from Justin Wilson.
Nice job. That was picture perfect.
Well, this is only the second IndyCar Series race that Will Power has led. He led 3 laps last year at Mid-Ohio, but he's led since the drop of the green flag here at Long Beach. Back with more in just a moment. The IndyCar Series on versus non-stop. 6 laps completed here at the 35th Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, and Will Power showing the way over Rafael Matos, Dario Franchitti, Justin Wilson, and Scott Dixon are your top 5. There's Dario, who took third from Justin Wilson just a couple of laps ago.
And of course, Dario is still trying to play some catch up here because of what happened on the start. You have an overhead view of that. If you freeze it right here, what we can do is highlight and show you where he is. He is right alongside, and let it roll now. He's right alongside where he needs to be. Watch the black car of power. He's going to take off like a drag start, and he just leaves Dario Franchitti in the dust. Franchitti does everything he possibly can, but wow, what a drag race start for Will Power. Lindy?
Dario said before the race, I am going to play this conservative and watch Will Power. His team down here are saying, well, maybe he just played it a little too conservative out there. As far as the car, he's saying everything is fine. And maybe, guys, you can confirm this, but they just radioed to him that he has set the fastest lap so far in this race.
Well, he's definitely closed that gap on Rafa. But, you know, you said he was going to take it easy at the start and watch what Will Power does. You watch Will Power leave him.
Yeah, and Lindy, it's so funny how they cheerlead because he's done the second fastest lap of the race. Rafael Matos is a little bit quicker, but it doesn't matter. If you're close enough on the radio, hey, come on, man, you've done the fastest lap. Let's go for it. He wouldn't know. It just gets the guy going.
Okay, Jan, so look at the gap right now between Will Power and Rafa Matos. They haven't really built a big gap there, for one being on the softer Firestone red compound versus the blacks.
Amazing. And I think when we've talked with the team, for some reason, Rafael Matos' crew doesn't feel as though the tire's as big of a spread for their car. Everyone else, when they change from red to black, says it's a huge difference. But for them, they say, well, they're pretty much the same.
And everybody always has a little bit of difference in the balance of the race car. I know Rafa's guys, what they focused on all weekend here is power down. And what that means is the better he can hook up and put that rear rubber down to the pavement, the faster he accelerates off the corner. And that has been their focus.
Let's take a look at our GoDaddy biggest movers. Alex Marias up 2. Matos started 3rd, currently 2nd. Wilson 5th to 4th, and Dixon from 6th to 5th. GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month. Well, the interval has stayed just about the same in the last few laps. 0.8 of a second from Will Power and Rafael Matos. There's Graham Rahal, who's back in 7th spot.
Graham Rahal, he's tight, he's pushing. We talked about just before the previous break that he has a little more downforce. That's a situation where as the track slickens up and tires wear down, he'll be in a better position. So, Robbie, in the next few laps, we'll start to see what happens to Graham Rahal. We'll also see what happens with Matos on his primary Firestones.
This is our Firestone onboard camera with Justin Wilson.
And we've heard from all the drivers that it's really bumpy around here. Elio, for example, he hasn't been here for 8 years. He's like, man, it's gotten bumpier around this racetrack, and very physical. Up through the gearbox here, probably up to 5th gear, now back down to 2nd or 3rd, depending on how you're set up here. And we're heading towards turn 8, which is really the second most important corner on this track because it leads onto the second longest straightaway and the best opportunity for passing.
But Robbie, I just heard something. When he gets down here to the brake zone, listen to the engine. He's backing off early and saving fuel right here. See, there's a coasting portion. So Justin Wilson is one of the best at figuring out how to save fuel. The reason he's doing that, if he doesn't think he can pass the car ahead, every little 0.1 or 2 of a gallon that he saves means that he can pit later. But wow, what a great view of the hairpin there.
And that famous hairpin, did you see all the wheel he had cranked in? Yeah. Just a big cross up with your hands. And that's where, if guys get too aggressive and bump each other in there, that's why it can be a big problem, because you're already crossed up and you got nowhere you can go.
Justin Wilson scored his first IndyCar Series win on a temporary road circuit at Belle Isle, Detroit last year.
And Jan made a great point, is we don't give enough credit to what's going on in this cockpit with these drivers. What Justin Wilson's doing by just breathing off the gas, conserving fuel, but still not losing ground to anybody and nobody's climbing over him, that is just makes up a great race car driver.
There's a lot of busy work going on, and also so interesting that there's not many, as we look at Briscoe, who've lost touch. I mean, this is a nice train from front all the way through, that as things start to develop, I mean, there's a lot of people within shot of the front here.
Ryan Briscoe is running in 12th position right now. There he is.
And the real interesting thing to me, one of the many interesting things, is the alternate red tires versus the black right now. As we keep chipping away at laps, we're just over 10 laps just to see who fades and who gets better, and just how that's going to impact the last 10 races, Bob.
Well, so far, so good. No cautions, no problems whatsoever. We have completed 11 laps of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Stay with us for more of the IndyCar Series on Versus.
The IndyCars roar here in Long Beach on Versus as Tony Kanaan, who started in the 11th position, has now gained 1 spot. But we talk about how strategy has to be fluid. For Michael Andretti's team of Team AGR, Tony Kanaan, the lead contingent in that right now, they've elected to try and make this a fuel conservation run, at least until their first pit stop. We expect most of the front runners to pit around lap 24 through 26, but they have been working very, very hard with Tony Kanaan. Alan McDonald, his new engineer, keeps telling him we're making good fuel mileage. And as they see this clump of the AGR cars with Kanaan in 10th, Muto in 17th, Andretti back in 20th, flanked by Patrick in 21st, right now they're going to go on that fuel conservation run. So we have ferreted out what Michael Andretti told our guys before the start of the race. They're going rad, but they're going rad in a conservative fuel way. Let's get more on how the Firestone Firehawks are operating with our own Robbie Floyd. Robbie?
Jack, I'm hearing drivers talking about the rear tires are going away already on the reds, and that was after 12 laps. 12 laps and the reds were already going away for some of the drivers, and I heard through the radio saying, hey, you got to get 13 more laps into them before we can come in. So things are not looking good for some of the teams on the reds, and I have to add exactly what you said as we're taking a look on an Andretti Green Racing team. Danica Patrick told me before this race they do not have the fastest cars by far. They're going to have something happen. So you're exactly right. They're going to have something. Dario Franchitti now moving up to second. That could be our hard charger right now. Only one guy in front of him. So that aggressive move, he might not have to. He might just drive his style and work his way up to the front.
And we've been talking about tires. We've been talking about what's going on with the grip level. And Robbie, what you and I have been talking about just played out. And that's what's happened with Raphael.
Well, you're right. And just as Robbie Floyd was saying, everybody's losing rear grip with red tires. And just as that, we saw Dario drive right by Matos on black sidewalls. So everybody's got a little something different going on in terms of how their car is set up with regards to springs, ride heights, and driving style.
Here's a replay of that pass. Dario Franchitti taken second from Rafael Matos.
Again, a key to this racetrack is putting power down so you have a good shot off of that hairpin to make a good clean pass. That was as clean as it gets.
Fellas, here's what's happening with Dario Franchitti and Scott Dixon. On their fuel reset button, they have been able to get a push-to-pass configuration for their Honda engine. It's a short burst of power. On that pass, you used it. Oh, trouble, Robbie, for one of your cars.
The dad's root beer car is in the tire barriers. That's Mike Conway.
And that is in turn 1. I'm hoping they're going to pull that car back, and he's got... It doesn't look like there's damage up there, Jan. So let's get him running, get him started now, and get him on the back of this line.
Spoken as a true car owner.
Well, I didn't say anything first when I look at that, just so I don't say the wrong thing.
And this is right at the point at lap 15 that if you're a leader, I don't think you pit. But if you're going to be rolling the dice, now is when you pit. That the pits aren't open right now. Well, hang on a minute. The pits weren't open, and someone's
still under green.
Yeah, they're going to have.
Oh, that's still local.
Oh, Dario pits.
I thought we were going full course. My apologies. So
not yet. Down to Lindy as Dario heads for his pit box.
Yeah, Dario is coming in. It looks like they have a fresh set of blacks to put on there. This is his 13. Ganassi raced 13 seasons of time that the driver has won. They ended up winning the champion. He is out in 7.5 seconds, guys.
Pit lane is the narrowest of any track that they will compete on, and pit boxes are the shortest, and so watch for a lot of action when we have multiple cars pitting here at Long Beach.
As well as
Will Power has lost the lead. Rafael Matos is leading. Something's wrong.
And EJ Viso.
Right over the backside of Dixon
Scott
there.
Dixon.
Something was wrong with Power. He was slowing, and everyone bottled up behind.
Wow, tough break for Viso, who was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And if you look at his left front, he's got suspension damage up there where it just kind of tweaked a little bit.
Now we're full course caution. My apologies for earlier. When I saw Mike Conway down there, I thought we were going full course.
I did too.
Yellow, but they talked about this morning in the drivers' meeting that they're going to try their best not to go full course caution, but now Dario's cut a break.
I was going to say, look who is in the catbird seat. Dario by coming in there, because now what's going to happen, everybody else is going to come in, and he's going to cycle to the front of the line, and he put on black sidewalls,
And
guys.
another person who took advantage, Danica Patrick, had made a pit stop just prior to that, so she'll be in the same league.
Conway has made his way to pit lane. Hopefully he'll be able to get back in the race. Stay with us for more of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach versus nonstop. Stay with us. Back in Long Beach, California, and we are under a full course caution, our first of the day. This is lap number 18. There's EJ Viso as he has experienced some mechanical problems as a result of this.
And all of a sudden, just a slowing of Will Power on the approach. It wasn't like he got offline, or it seemed like Robbie maybe out of a gear, or, and you know, here he's also not really quite up to speed. He's trying to defend. He's looking in the mirror. He knows he's in trouble. And there's something not right with Power.
Definitely not. And EJ, you know, he just got the raw end of that deal just because they got a little bit of stack up there with bottleneck, but that all began going into turn 5. We got to get back and maybe take another look at that and just see what prompted that.
But then off of 5 on the way to 6, he slowed again. You could tell the way by Will Power looked in the mirror that he knew he was in some sort of bother. So something may not be still right with that car.
And remember, he doesn't have a radio on board, so that adds to this frustration. Robbie Floyd, you got more?
I do not have anything on Will Power right now, but Rafael Matos looks like he's going to be throwing on the reds. I will get you more on Will. And again, remember, they have communication problems. Right now, they're going back to a set of blacks for Will Power. Rafael Matos, who took the lead just a moment ago when I was talking to Jay Finsky, just a moment ago, he said, you know, there was a little concern that they weren't doing any better than they were on the tires that they were.
Justin Wilson in, they are taking the reds off the number 18 and putting on blacks, making no tire pressure changes. He was full at this event last year, got out with an engine. He said, I have got a score to settle, and there it goes.
And you can tell by how many cars rolled by, he lost some positions there. How did Will Power, nice job by his team. Remember, this is the team that doesn't have the same level of experience as the rest of the Penske crew. They've assembled from their Grand Am team and so on. Fantastic job at a quick stop.
And maybe why it was is they just, as soon as they got all the tires on, they just did a little bit of a short fill of fuel. They didn't wait another 2 seconds to put fuel in there. But when we were focusing on Will in that pit stop, we saw the hand gestures coming out of the cockpit. So that definitely tells you there's a lack of communication. Not sure on which end, but I'm sure probably Will can maybe hear them, but they can't hear anything from him.
And that's what they want to hear right now. They want to hear from him. Exactly. There's something that has gone wrong. We have no idea if it's been fixed or what the issue was or maybe continues, and there's no way he can tell.
Tony Kanaan has not yet stopped. He is the leader. Ryan Briscoe second. Brian Hunter-Ray, Robert Dornbos, and Justin Wilson are your top 5. Under caution here at Long Beach.
So you have Andretti Green cars doing a split strategy. So Tony Kanaan did not pit. Danica Patrick had pitted just before that caution, just like Dario Franchitti did. I think that was a fantastic move by both of those two, the Ganassi and Andretti Green Racing. They saw Mike Conway in turn 1, and they know that yellow breeds yellow, and they decided to pit thinking it might go full course. I thought it had already gone full course, but that was a brilliant move.
It is, and for Tony Kanaan, who, you know, has struggled this weekend, we've heard that the AGR guys have been struggling. He has to get off sequence somehow. So it was pretty clear for him to stay out on course there.
Braking and braking points are so important at a street race like this. We saw the 24 car might have missed the brake point there in turn number 1. Maybe it was a problem with brake bias. Here's Robbie, or Jan Bikas.
You may have heard the saying, a driver standing on the brakes. Well, with an Indy car, you do even more than that. The pedal pressure is as much as 400 pounds. Next time you go to the gym, try that with one leg. Now, as important as pressure is balance, the balance of the brakes to the front, to the rear. And the way you adjust that is the brake pedal inside is adjustable from the cockpit. If I rotate it, you can see it turns, and it turns a pivot almost like a teeter-totter, either towards the front or towards the rear. Now, one full turn in the cockpit equals 1% change. You may say 1%, that's not much. Well, all these cars run just about 55% of the braking to the front. And the teams really don't like to go more than 2% either way. So 1% is actually quite a big change. Also inside here, they have pressure sensors and temperature sensors that an engineer on pit road can check the data and actually let a driver know during a race, hey, your brake bias is shifting, give us a couple clicks to the front. Now, general rule of braking is when you're full on fuel after a pit stop, you want some more rear brake. If the track is slick, you want rear brake. But as the race goes on, as the track rubbers up, you put a little bit more to the front. And new this year, with the alternate tires, you have more grip. So when the team slaps them on and maybe makes a front wing adjustment, the driver has to remember, oh yeah, I need a couple more clicks to the front.
Well done, a lot of good information in that piece, Jan.
It's a critical piece. We've talked about saving fuel. We've talked about all the things that happen in the cockpit, and messing around with brake bias, Robbie, is a big part of it. As we go back.
The Apex Brazil restart here on lap number 21. Starting lap 22 down into turn number 1. Briscoe takes a look to the inside of Kanaan.
And the way he went inside, it was more than a look. I think he was thinking, and TK went to the latest possible minute and just went to the brake pedal. Nice job.
Ryan Hunter-Reay close by in 3rd spot. Vision Racing once again. By the way, I think it was 5 years ago this weekend, Ryan Hunter-Reay and Becky Gordon, Robbie's sister, met. Friday night, they became engaged. Congratulations to Ryan Hunter-Reay and Becky Gordon.
And they met right here at this racetrack.
That's right. Yep.
Well, you know, we talked about when Dario came into the pits that one time. He's back in 7th spot because we were saying he was the guy to benefit, but these 6 cars in front of him have still yet to pit.
And for Ryan Hunter-Reay, you also heard him earlier talk about they made a change in the warm-up, and he liked it. So oh man, that's tight when they that accordion effect down. And but Ryan Hunter-Reay has lost speed. He might be in the clutches at Dornbos.
You saw him get big sideways trying to put the power on. Coming off there. We're riding on board with Marco there. What a great shot. There's Dornbos looking down the inside.
Yeah.
Sure enough. So all it takes is a little bit of a miscue coming off the hairpin. Let's get to Robbie.
EJ, it has to be disappointing for you. I mean, everything looks so good. The best qualifying performance for the team, and then that had to happen. What was happening from your perspective?
Well, I had a great car. I had an extremely good pace. I was saving fuel, a lot of fuel, and so I was going to be able to be really quick in the second part of the race, and nothing. Scott had a terrible exit from the previous corner, and I just outbraked him in the outside because I wanted to overtake him in the next corner, but he changed his line. It's one of the first things they repeat 20 times in the driver's briefing, and he's the champion, but he did it.
Looked like everybody was bottling up in that section. You didn't see anything else other than Scott with being the problem?
Well, Will Power had a bad exit because he thought it was going to be, he thought it was a full yellow, and he just was very slow, and the driver started overtaking him. But Scott had a bad exit as well, and I was overtaking him in the outside, but he just changed his line and hit me in the front left.
Difficult race for you this time. A week from now, you've got to wipe all that out of your head and hit the ovals at Kansas.
Well, Kansas is an oval race. Last year we had a very good pace in that one, and hopefully we're going to do better this year.
Well, you thought you had it bad. Take a look at what's happening on the monitor right now.
We have a major mess down in turn 11. Mario Marias, Hideki Muto, Justin Wilson, Dan Weldon, and Darren Manning.
And if you're wondering what's going to happen, this track is obviously blocked, but they have provisions. Let's first see what caused it.
Remember, this is where once you go with the wheel, you get crossed up, you got nowhere you could go.
Oh, from behind. Wow. There was contact. First of all,
it was actually all in front of Marias. Everybody stacked everybody up, and Marias. I'd like to see the dance car got through there, but everybody in front of Marias, there we're looking back at him right there. There he is. There's the ding. And everybody else goes off, and 4 cars are there.
This is Justin Wilson.
We're looking at, that's Marias right in front of him.
It all starts ahead when Dixon got into the back of Rahal, and then you had the accordion, just like what you'd see on the highway. All of a sudden, somebody jams on the binders, and it just goes backwards, and these poor people had no place to go.
And you started to say, Jan, they do have a provision here.
There's the provision up top.
Yep, they said they were going to send a guy out to the racetrack with a big arrow saying shortcut, and they avoid this hang-up here and go into the pit area and then onto the track.
So that is a provision that they talk about in the morning drivers meeting. Everyone knew about it. There's a signboard that comes off the previous corner, and they go down, and they are not allowed to pit, but they do need to go through at the pit speed, which is 50 miles an hour this weekend. Traditionally it's 60, but they've lowered it because of the narrowness of pit road.
And when we talk about pit road, this pit road goes on forever. You really...
It's narrow, but it's long.
It's very long because they don't merge back into the course until you get back to turn 1. Look at, there's Alex Tagliani. Look at, just keep going along at 50 miles an hour. Right in there is when the speed limit changes, but you still got to stay in pit road.
And there's our onboard camera with Alex Tagliani. Notice that on the side pod of the car, Vegas Hard Rock Hotel and Casino with sponsorship this week on the Alex Tagliani car. And I might mention also that Conquest Racing and ODM, another associate sponsor, donated $10,000 yesterday to the Susan Komen Race for the Cure.
See some damage on the front of Scott Dixon, and that is the first car that we have seen right in that section there. That is the first car I believe that I saw make the contact with Graham Rahal. Then everyone else checked up behind, and that damage may be just superficial. I don't know that's going to slow you down.
It looks like just a little bit of rubber on there. It doesn't look it got into the integrity of the wing at all.
I meant to say ODW Logistics on the Tagliani car.
You know, even more so with Dixon. We just heard from EJ Vizo a little bit when we had that bit of stack up going into turn 6. And if anything, I would have thought Dixon maybe had some damage to the right rear, but obviously not.
Pits are still closed, so we're going to take another break and be back with you with more of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach under another full course caution with 24 of 85 laps completed on Versus. IndyCar Series on Versus back with you at Long Beach, and here are the cars that stacked up there between turn 10 and 11. Weldon, Marias, Wilson, Manning, and Muto. And we know that Justin Wilson is out of the race with a broken wishbone on the suspension. And we also, you saw during our non-stop, several cars did make pit stops, including Tony Kanaan and others, giving the lead to Marco Andretti.
We're looking out of the back of Justin Wilson's car at the right rear suspension.
Wow. Yeah, when it collapses. Look at that.
There it is.
My.
That lower wishbone.
Well, down to Lindy.
Yeah, Justin Wilson at first was saying, hey, I think I'm okay. Let's come in, put some fuel in there, and look at the rear wing and see if we need to do anything. When he came in, they turned the car off. That's when they say, hey, the wishbone is broken, and we are out. By the way, Briscoe came in. Roger Penske has been telling him, you need to push to pass on these straights. He came in, took off the reds, got onto the black tires, and they made no adjustments to his car.
And that's a case where when you have Roger Penske saying you need to push,
you push.
You're going to be pushing.
I'm driving as hard as I can. What do I do?
Down to Robbie Floyd.
Well, things are looking good for Tony Kanaan on the Andretti Green Racing team. His first pit stop, lap 26. He goes from the blacks to the red tires. So down on the alternate tires, and they're messing with me in here. In the miscellaneous notes portion, when I was handed, they said, well, we're kind of hurting a little bit. Well, needless to say, they've got a lot of smiles on their faces right now. He's out in front.
Well, we know Marco's really had a tough weekend. He's been fighting all weekend long for balance. And this morning when I talked to him, he said, hey, if Kyle Moya, who is the best in the business on strategy, can get me out of sequence somehow and can get me at the front, I finally feels I got a car that can keep me there. Yesterday, he said, I don't have a car that I can stay up there with. So, you know, be careful what you wish for. Now he's got to do it.
And Jack Arute is standing by with a guy who raced here yesterday and whom we will see at Indianapolis, Jack.
Yeah, former pole sitter of the Indianapolis 500. Until he left, he had started more IndyCar races than anybody else. Scott Sharp finished second yesterday in the ALMS race, but you're coming back to Indy. Tell us a little bit about that effort.
Yeah, I just couldn't be more excited, Jack. It was tough sitting out last year, and great support from Tequila Patron and Muscle Milk, and we had the opportunity to do it with Panther Racing, and I think it's going to be the strongest combination I've ever had there.
Hey, I'll tell you, both of us have been kind of watching strategies unfold, and when we take a look at the rundown, I'm of the opinion right now that it's going to come down at the end of the race between Dario Franchitti and it's going to be well, I'm going to pick one of Roger Penske's guys, and I think it's Ryan Briscoe. I think right now they're working. How do you see it unfolding so far?
Dario really made a good call, you know, and the yellow hit them well, but pitting early like that, and they got back out. They're still on the lead lap. When everyone else had to pit, you know, they were the first of the guys that had pitted. So I think he's going to be in a good spot.
Back to green, fellas, and back to you.
And a familiar name is leading this race. Andretti. He's the 5th member of the Andretti family to run here at Long Beach. Michael drove his father, his grandfather Mario, and his uncle Jeff and cousin John. Marco leads at Long Beach with 28 laps completed. Franchitti is second. Then comes Carpenter, Patrick, Power, Castroneves, Matos, and Rahal.
It looks to me like Will Power still has some sort of issue. Now, we heard E.J. Viso say that he thought the reason Power slowed was he thought it was going to go to a full course caution, kind of like we did here. But it looks to me like he's just not getting... Oh, look at a move by Conway to the inside of Tagliani.
Nice move there by the rookie.
Thanks for calling that out, Jan. I just enjoyed watching that.
And he was on red, so the Dreyer Reinbold strategy is opposing to many other teams, and this will be interesting in this stint to see what that opposing strategy does.
We saw Tony Kanaan pit. He changed to reds, and Matos, who started on blacks, is now also on the reds. And the number 98 car of Stanton Barrett is being passed. Stanton hung in there, though, at St. Petersburg, had a respectable finish.
And a lot of these cars, this is the time when trimming the car out, taking a little downforce out of the rear wing is going to pay. And that's what the Penske team traditionally does. You saw Briscoe take a look, and actually that's
Mira
on around the outside. But when you all get grouped up coming off of the hairpin and running down shoreline, those cars that have trimmed out, that have a little less drag, it gives you a great advantage to maybe get a bit of a slipstream. If you're carrying more downforce, you're sometimes just stuck along for a ride.
And another theory to that is, if you just slow down in a corner and you keep the guys behind you in the slow corners, you know, once you both go to power, you go to power at the same time. If you got less downforce in the car, they're not going to pass you as long as you stack them up getting into the corner.
So interesting to see that graphic of Andretti Green Racing. Wasn't that long ago we showed that graphic? They're all running around the back, but now through this strategy, it's really shuffled it up.
This is Marco's 50th career IndyCar start, his first at Long Beach. Michael won in '86, then Mario won here 3 times in '84, '85, and '87. Lindy has Justin Wilson.
Justin, from your perspective, what could you see happen out there?
Well, it was very difficult. Back in the pack, everyone's so afraid of the guy behind trying to pass you. You're staggering out of the hairpin to turn 10 just to put off the guy behind having a silly move down the inside into the hairpin, because we just don't have enough lock to get down on the inside. And, you know, from what I saw, everyone just stacked up. I basically hit Mario at the same time as I got hit by Hideki, and it was, I'm not sure what happened in front of Mario, but literally the whole thing, I got hit front and back, and you know, it just broke my rear suspension. So unfortunately, you know, the Z-Line design furniture car is not going to be on the podium this weekend.
And I know you felt like coming here that you had a score to settle.
Yeah, you know, after last year when we had the engine failure, I was definitely looking forward to this race, and you know, it's been great. You know, yesterday we really turned the car around and we're quick, and we're running second there before that pit stop. So it just all got muddled up, and yeah, unfortunately, we're back in the pack and in the middle of that stack-up.
Justin, thank you.
Thank you.
Will not win here at Long Beach. Right now, it is Marco showing the way over Dario Franchitti by about, well, that many car lengths. Back there in third position is Ed Carpenter, and Danica Patrick at the moment is running in fourth spot. Stay with us for more of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, the IndyCar Series on Versus. At Long Beach in the Toyota Grand Prix, it is Dario Franchitti back in the IndyCars for full season after last year competing in NASCAR. And speaking of NASCAR, for those of us in the over 50 set, congratulations to Mark Martin, who won last night at Phoenix, and also a tip of the hat to Sam Hornish Jr., who was 9th last night. Running in second spot, about 3 seconds behind, there's Danica Patrick. Then comes Power, Matos, and Castroneves.
And it's worth reminding that Danica Patrick and Dario Franchitti were the two great beneficiaries of that early pit stop just before it went full course caution. And you know, Danica's staying, you know, Dario's not that far ahead of her, and she for a long time was stuck behind, it was Ed Carpenter before he made his pit stop, so she's hanging in there.
By the way, this is the anniversary of Danica's win in Japan. It was on this weekend that she won in Japan, and of course the final Champ Car event was held here in Long Beach. Down to Jackaroot.
All right, fellas, I'm watching the way things are unfolding, and as I said when we were talking to Scott Sharp, I think Dario Franchitti has a decided advantage, and here's why. They have gotten rid of the Firestone alternates, and they have gone to the Firestone primary tire. In talking to them, they like the way that tire performed. They would like to have a Firestone alternate at the end of the race. Here's what I think's happening with Dario, guys. Dario is making fuel. He is conserving as much fuel as possible so that his short pit will come in his final stop. He's going to try and go a little bit longer than normal. For Danica Patrick, well, that's that Andretti Green strategy we've been talking about. They're just trying to set a steady pace. And in some cases, Robbie Buell, for Danica Patrick, her technique, slower is in the end result faster for her because she's not so slow that willpower can pass her.
And remember, Danica, she was pretty quick in Saturday morning practice, but at the beginning of qualifying, she just put on some new tires and just spun and clipped her wings. So she really didn't get to post a time in qualifying. That's why she was starting all the way back in the 22nd spot.
You got to be really impressed with the guy with whom we were riding there for just a second. Rafa Matos. Good run so far. He's up to fourth spot. There he is in the Lusso Dragon team.
Now, and again, let's keep an eye on Rafa there, running in the fourth spot, chasing down Will. There he's on the red sidewalls. He started on the blacks. Are those reds going to get him close enough, Jan, to challenge Will?
Just so interesting that we just see the reverse of what we were watching earlier. Just switch cars on two different strategies, but you know how we'll find out on the next stop when you have a choice of going either way. Once you've already done your primaries and alternates, you can put whatever you want on. Then we'll find out what people really like.
But it's important right now with Matos being on those reds to take advantage of it if he can.
Yeah.
Not don't be stupid. You know, make smart decisions, low risk moves.
You heard before, in order to finish first, you must first finish.
Yep.
As we heard about his debrief.
And Stanton Barrett is in the runoff area.
We heard in the drivers' meeting they're going to do everything they can to not go full course yellow. Jan, you mentioned this earlier. So they asked the rest of the drivers, just show some courtesy to the safety workers. Don't just blast through there. Just back it down a little bit. And if you do that, we won't have to go full course yellow. And that's going to set the tone for the rest of the year, too.
Yeah, it's funny. We're happening to look at Castroneves at the same time. You talk about full course yellow. I thought about when we were going long and didn't have any yellow. This is at the moment local because we know that Stanton Barrett is in turn number 9. That's right where these cars are. This is where Allinger Jr., who is one of the driving coaches for the Indy Racing League, spoke to the drivers and talked about, we want you to give those corner workers a break. Just what you were talking about, Robbie. And he was pretty passionate about selling that, saying we really need to look out for those safety workers, and they did a nice
nice job there.
And his passion for selling that is he wants these guys to do as much racing as possible, not throwing full course yellows.
I was starting to say that Castroneves is the one guy who wants full course yellows today, and I don't mean strategy. When you haven't driven for 6 months and we start going a really long stint without any yellow, I'm thinking, oh man, that's going to be tough for Elio.
And this morning, when we saw him at the drivers' meeting, he said,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, we were standing there together. He came, he said, oh, my arms, oh, my legs. He said it wasn't from his hit. It's just the fact that he's been out of a car for 6 months.
Using muscles that he hasn't used in a while.
Yeah, adrenaline takes over. Like I say, his passion for what he does and being back in his environment right now, adrenaline's going to overrule. Oh, my arms are tired.
Well, Dario leads the race. You mentioned Al Unser Jr. He won another race here yesterday. This is the Toyota Pro Celebrity Race, and here came the celebrities down for the green flag start, rumbling off into turn number 1. Raven Simone. Oh, hard into turn number 1. She was okay. I don't know what happened. Something broke on the car. Here's the big moment. A 2-car incident. Danny Way and Farnsworth Bentley, that gave the lead and the win to Keanu Reeves, but in the pro division, Al Unser Jr. drove through the whole field and won it. Way to go, Al Unser Jr. Ryan Hunter-Reay back in 13th position, had a close moment just a few seconds ago. We'll be back with you in just a moment from Long Beach. Yet another full course caution on the streets of Long Beach as Ed Carpenter has nosed into the tire barrier in turn number 1. Gives us an opportunity to kind of recap what's happened so far in almost the first half of this event.
And the day looked like it might not even start for Will Power. He was late leaving the grid, but they got him out at the last moment. So what didn't look like was going to be a good start. Look at that. He rockets off and does a standing start, leaves Dario Franchitti in the dust. Perfect job going down to turn number 1. However, later on, Will Power slows. We've heard because he thought the course was going to go full course yellow. He's slowing down, looking in the mirror, thinking maybe it's going to go full course. EJ Viso, unfortunately, gets caught as everyone starts to back off of the Power. Now, talking about backing off, look at that. Scott Dixon gets into the back of Ray Hall. Then you have a big traffic jam behind. Unfortunately, Mario Marias, Justin Wilson, and a host of others went no farther. Now, Carpenter appears not to have damage, and he gives the international sign for fire me up, I want to get going.
And that was turn 1. He just nosed into that tire barrier in turn 1.
Ed Carpenter in the Menard-sponsored Vision Racing machine will catch up to the rest of the field, probably join the field again. Well, we present Eyes on Centennial Moments, celebrating the centennial of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, remembering Al Unser, but also Roger Penske.
And now here it is. Al Unser joins A.J. Foyt as one of only 2 men ever to win the Indianapolis 500 4 times in his life.
When Roger Penske works your pits, it's a different pit operation. I mean, he runs it like clockwork. Roger talks to you all the time. He never quits. He tells you who you're behind, he tells you who you're ahead of, he tells you what lap, he tells you what time you're running. There isn't anything that Roger Penske doesn't tell you.
Yellow flag with 8 laps to go.
When that green flag came out, and I never lifted, and I didn't. I mean, it's a true fact that I run around there wide open. It's a storybook race, you know, that with the team that I had and all the people around me, there I was.
Al Unser, with guidance from Roger Penske, becoming the second 4-time winner of the Indianapolis 500. We are back to green with an Apex Brazil restart. Off into turn number 1 they go, and Dario is still at the front of the field with Danica running in second and Willpower third. Dario led 9 of the final 10 races during his championship season in 2007. He failed to lead at St. Pete, but with him in the lead today, he has now led in 9 of his last 10 IndyCar Series starts.
One of the things worth watching is the 2 different styles. Michael Andretti watching, of course, Danica Patrick, who he's on the radio with. And Danica carries a lot of brake into the corner, and Dario Franchitti is known on the street circuit to release the brake pedal. You can see a little bit in turn number 1. 2 different styles. You can see that Danica will close in on the approach to corners, and then Dario gets his foot off the brake and lets it roll. I also think Dario's probably trying to save a bit of fuel, and they've told Danica, let's get after him. She's racing.
Yeah, pretty impressive right now for struggling the first day like they did, just to find grip and balance in that race car. Right now, she has hounded Dario.
Well, she's sandwiched between Dario Franchitti and Willpower, and you'd have to say probably 2 of the best street course drivers you're going to find anywhere. And if anything, in some parts of the course, she's closing in on Dario and leaving Willpower.
We showed you highlights of this year's Pro Celebrity race just a few minutes ago. Danica won the Celebrity Pro race here in 2001. They stack up pretty tight there in turn 3, don't they?
That's probably the next slowest corner, other than the hairpin where we saw that big stack up that piled up 4 cars. That's the next slowest corner on this racetrack.
All 3 Team Penske cars in the top 10.
35 miles an hour in that fountain section. Which feels very slow, doesn't it, Robbie? After you do 170 down the straightaway, it feels like you're crawling.
Amazing. And down this straightaway, the back straightaway, they're getting up to about 160.
Watch Rahal, though. I think Graham Rahal has a run. Graham Rahal is thinking about it. Not quite close enough.
Does that come back to what you talked about with the Penske boys being a little more trimmed out? You know, you saw Graham got a great run off at 8, but then just couldn't finish the pass because there's a little less downforce on Elio's car. Just gave him that, you know, that's 3 extra feet that gave him right before you go to the brakes there.
And that's where you're right. A run, you get a good run off a corner, but you can't capitalize on it if you trim it out.
Very frustrating for a racing driver when that happens.
Robbie, I think you mentioned it just a few minutes ago, and that is the trouble that Danica had in qualifying.
Well, let's take a look at it. It happens in turn 10, right before you sweep into the hairpin. She was on cold tires there. You just saw the rear of the car come around. The tires are cold, and bumps it in, and there's the nose, and that ends her qualifying. That was right at the beginning of that, so she really never posted a time.
And what led to that is they've been working with her really hard this year on outlaps. Yep. They have found when they look at all the data that she loses time on outlaps on cold tires. So they sent her out on a cold set of reds and snapped the whip and said, get after it.
And when you come off of the gas, that loads up the front tire, so the weights go to the front and the rear comes around.
Oh, she was getting off the gas there?
She was getting off the gas. I think you maybe thought she went to the brake, but that's another story. We'll put that
in. If you were with us yesterday, you heard the same argument. Was she braking at that point or was she not? But in any case, she crashed.
We had a spirited discussion, and I think we've got to the bottom of it, so all is well.
I think I'm just impressed of right now. She's getting in a rhythm. She knows she's paced, so this gives you confidence right now. So you're just going to keep getting more and more aggressive and confidence with your car. She doesn't have willpower breathing down her neck. She's just got to focus on chasing Dario.
We are past the halfway point of the 35th Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. 45 of 85 laps completed. Dario Franchitti is showing the way. Here are the top 10 with Dixon, Tagliani, Weldon, Briscoe, and Kanaan 6 through 10. Dario leads. More when we return. Indy nonstop on Versus. 46 laps completed, and Dario Franchitti leads Danica Patrick, Will Power, Elio Castroneves, and Graham Rahal. And here they all come.
You talked about lap 46 when you're resetting there. Dario Franchitti, if he only wants to stop one more time and it stayed green, would pit on lap 55. So 9, if he can stay out there for 9 more laps, it's not a 3-stopper, and that's tough. So he is out there doing anything anything he can think of. And Danica pitted on the same lap, so she's doing the same deal. They're on the same program. They have to save.
But if they can get to that 55 lap, that's 30 to make it home, and it's a safe bet. You can run 30 laps. They may have to conserve fuel a little bit, but if you get any yellows, they're good to make it all the way.
Yep. And even if you can't make 55, maybe you drop a bit. Let's get to Robbie Floyd.
Well, Michael, could things go much better for you and Danica at this point?
That's going good. You know, we'll see. She's doing a great job keeping pace and doing a good job saving fuel. So we'll see.
Fuel has to be your biggest concern right now because she says she didn't have the car to win this thing, but you're in second place.
I think she's got a car to win it. I really do. Her pace is good, and she's staying right there with Dario, who's, I think, one of the quickest cars on the track. So I think we have a shot at winning yet.
If Dario pulls in, does that mean that more than likely you'll pull in?
We're on our own race. We're not going to follow his race.
I got Jack around to you.
Hey, Robbie, one of the things that may determine who wins this race is called push to pass. And it's called an overtake button in IndyCar racing. It gives extra power to the Honda engines. We talked about how Team Target Chip Ganassi's been using it. Maybe that's the way Danica Patrick might be able to get by. There's a fuel reset button on the steering wheels of these drivers' cars. When they use that in pit road, it operates that way. But they do have a limited amount of time out on the racetrack where when they push that button, they get an extra push. And maybe that'll be what Danica Patrick will need. Looks like Tony Kanaan's getting ready to come onto pit road. A lot of action over in his pit as well. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Jack. We understand that Dario will be pitting in 6 laps.
Should make it 54. He'll be real close.
Danica second, about 1.2 seconds behind Dario Franchitti. IndyCar Series non-stop on Versus. Welcome back to the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. www.indycar.com. Race control on the web. That's your source for all things IndyCar. And Danica is pitting, and so is Will Power.
And that's lap 50. That's too early in my book.
It is. It's a huge gamble.
Danica Patrick, Michael Andretti called her in. They're going to change, go back out to the blacks. Guys, you say it's too early. I heard guys talking earlier that they were trying to get 34 laps out of their car, so it might be a little more than they were expecting.
Wow, tight ball coming off and out of the pits, huh?
And the pit road is where you can make track position. Danica made track position on Will Power. But again, remember, when you come into the pits, that's not a time for the drivers to catch their breath. That's a whole nother game of intensity, and Danica made it work. We just heard from Mike. She's feeling racy and good about her car.
Now, we just heard Robbie Floyd say 34 laps, though. That's, there may be people talking about 34 laps, but 34 laps, I mean,
you're going to need yellow laps to get to that.
34 would be crazy. You'd be soft pedaling everywhere.
So let's watch Danica. Let's stay on her right now. She's on cold tires. That's something that she's been working hard to get better on. We know why she crashed in qualifying the other day, because the guys were pushing her. You know, it's just really slick. It's, you know, for those that have driven on the black ice, you get onto that, it's like, whoa, where did that come from? It's a driver skill that you just got to practice on to get that feel, and it can take a long time. But she's doing a fantastic job of keeping Will behind her.
You saw Michael watching that intently, because as we've talked about, not just here, when they went testing, that was one of the things they worked on over and over at Sebring, sending out on cold tires and just standing on it to get, and I would say that she's learned a good lesson in the offseason.
No question.
We expect Dario to pit soon. In second place now is Elio Castroneves. Graham Rahal running in third.
Dario Franchitti would love to make a gap here, but you can't make a gap, and Will Power has gone to the lead. Sorry, in this sequence.
Picks up that spot.
Sorry, in this sequence, because they just pitted.
Yeah, it's good. We're going to cycle. I think we'll see that here eventually after we get through a cycle. You're right. That probably will be our leader. But now is the time for Dario, just if he could just eke out an extra half a second or a couple tenths per lap, just to give himself that gap for when he comes into the pit. But again, he's trying to get fuel mileage too. There he is, down pit road.
Down to Lindy.
Dario is staying on a new set of black tires. They asked him earlier, Dario, we need you to save fuel. Can you do that? Well, he must have, because they just told him, good job, that's the
Lindy, if they say that's the exact number they're looking for, they overnight have. Now, I will say Dario is definitely running less rear wing, and the less drag, the better fuel economy. And overnight, Elio Castroneves is now the leader after all this. And Mike Conway in trouble.
Once again, Mike Conway into the tire barrier.
Turn 8.
That's not good for Elio.
But it's great for Dario once again.
Wow. Anybody who just pitted loves to see this. They're high-fiving anyone who we saw pit in the last couple of laps. This is a huge bonus. And Elio, that's just exactly what they didn't want.
Nope.
Same for Graham Rahal, Scott Dixon, Alex Tagliani, Ryan Briscoe. Those 5 cars are going to cycle back.
You know, this sport is always about a little bit of luck every once in a while. Not a lot of luck going on our screen right now.
Now, it's been a tough day for Mike Conway. It's the second time he's been in the tires, and it looks like that he will be climbing out of the car and probably calling it a day here.
Mike was second quick in morning warm-up this morning, so he's showing he has the speed, but he's just one of these rookies. He's just got to keep learning what the give and take is and how much he can push these race cars.
All the cars you're looking at from this overhead shot, those 5 will pit at some point before the end of the race, and they'll give up track position to the 6th car, which is, well, I thought it was going to be, where'd he go? Where'd Dario go? Just the way it recycled. It should be Dario once these guys do peel off.
And remember, Dario came in on lap 53. The lap you want to get to make it home is probably 55. Now that we've had this yellow, Jan, I think this is his cushion.
Oh, yeah.
And as good as he is at saving fuel and carrying speed, I think he's home free.
He doesn't need to now.
No.
Now with this, you get 2 to 3 laps of green for every lap of yellow, so this is all golden for them.
Well, I think there was a big group that picked Dario on this deal.
Well, it's not over yet.
No, I know,
but we're looking good.
It's definitely not. You don't say it's over till you get off of the hairpin here.
Pits are now open. Again, Patrick, Power, Weldon, Franchitti, and Kanaan pitted just before the caution. And now as they head out of turn number 11, we'll see if anybody else.
We'll have most of this front group will peel off. Not everybody. Somebody might stay up.
Down to Robbie Floyd.
Well, you talked about the guys and girls who pitted just before the yellow. They were in good shape. Well, that's not the case for Scott Dixon. He makes his way in. He's got a brand new set of sticker blacks to go on. Guys, I've not seen any type of adjustments at all. The camp here was just shaking their head. They needed to come in before that yellow. Jack?
Graham Rahal was about to run out of fuel, and at the last moment they opened up the pits. He's gone back to the Firestone.
Oh, he left early. He left early. Graham Rahal, yes, he left early. They were still having the fuel hose.
The fuel hose is coming seated. There is ethanol all over the place. Wow, what a scary moment. And they were fast action by one of the crew members with a lot of water, was able to avoid a costly fire here on pit road.
Yeah, Jack, we had the opportunity to see that along with you, is that they sent him, or he went before, and sometimes it's a bit sticky when you're pulling out that fuel nozzle, and the timing was off, and he left with that fuel nozzle attached. Whew, that was a close one.
Nothing scarier than fire.
No. And like you say, sometimes, as Jan said, sometimes you can be waved out of the pits with the guys anticipating the fuel to be done, and they pull that fuel nozzle that we just looked. You think they're going to pull it back, but sometimes that just gets hung up, and that little hang up can do it.
And with Alex Tagliani, let's see what happened with his pit stop.
Now this shows us a perfect angle of what's happening.
The guy on the left is the fuel nozzle. This is the air jack. Look at him. He's hung up.
And he doesn't see. But that was where a crew saw. The crew saw that it hung up, and they held him. Now the exact same thing happens to Graham Rahal. Oh, he wasn't even trying to disengage.
No, was either he was sent early or he just decided to leave early. That wasn't a hang up with the fuel. Jack, you got more?
Well, yeah, remember, he was about to run out of fuel, guys. He was not sent early. He saw the tires go on, and in normal circumstances, you can change the tires and the fuel basically is running at the same time. That's a case of exuberance and wanting to get back into the battle for Graham Rahal. But as we said, fast action averted a disaster on pit road. We're under caution for the 6 lead changes and 6 cautions here at the Long Beach Grand Prix. We'll have the end next.
Still under caution here at Long Beach because of an incident involving Mike Conway and a near disaster on Graham Rahal's pit stop, and he's got something dangling there at the rear of the car.
It looked like it had electronic wire. Is that the rear
Well, remember,
light?
he got hit from behind in the hairpin. Scott Dixon hit him earlier. That's what that would be
Very
from.
good.
Here's why we're under the caution.
Mike Conway on the approach gets, wow, really hot, Robbie.
And that's about 130-mile-an-hour approach into that corner. And Jan, that goes back to maybe brake bias. He had a little bit too much rear bias. That's not the light. That's some type of sending unit, maybe part of the telemetry.
Well, he got hit from behind and obviously has dislodged that connector, and that was from much earlier. So if it stayed this long, but
yeah.
Graham's bigger issue was obviously what happened on pit road.
Right. About to go back to green flag racing. Dario Franchitti will be showing the way when we get the green. There's the second place car of Will Power. TK, Tony Kanaan running 3rd. Danica Patrick running 4th. And Dan Weldon. We haven't talked too much about Dan today, but Dan is doing a fine job for Panther Racing, as he did last week at St. Pete before he had the problem late in the race. Right now, the pace car has the field in tow.
And you can see all the rubber chunks that are just being thrown up, even by the pace car there.
Going through turns 9 and 10. Will Power looking to repeat, winning here last year in the final Champ Car World Series event. All right, here they come.
Power down, boys.
Green flag waves once again. Franchitti punches it, heading to turn 1.
And that's got to feel good after he lost that drag race on the initial start. He gets the payback for Will Power.
All comes full circle. Sometimes a little shorter, sometimes a little longer.
Dario just seems to be able to separate himself from everybody else.
Another guy there who's in 3rd spot, you know, Tony Kanaan, we talked about him a little bit earlier, but there's Tony in the 3rd spot.
Scott Dixon on his heels, Ryan Briscoe and Elio Castroneves. Scott 6th, Briscoe 7th, Elio is 8th in his return to the IndyCar Series. Ed Carpenter, of course, is a lap car.
You'll see Dixon pop right there, pull alongside, outbrake him into 9. Look at that.
Marco. Yeah, gets a position on Castroneves. Nicely done. Everyone's focused on what's happening with Carpenter, and
AGR cars have come alive.
Yeah, they sure
Danica,
have.
Tony, Marco.
And you know what? They did a lot of it with pit strategy, but obviously now that's all over. And they've obviously fixed those cars overnight and got a lot of speed they've been lacking all weekend.
3 of the 4 Andretti green cars are in the top 10.
Briscoe by Carpenter as they go into 1. So Dario, look at that gap already.
Yeah.
He's pulled a little bit over a 1.5-second gap.
So right now, pretty good day, Jack, for AGR Racing.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the way they did it was fuel economy and electing to go, you know, as far as they could. Right now, both Tony Kanaan and Danica Patrick have been given the green light by George Klotz for Tony Kanaan and, of course, Michael Andretti for Danica Patrick to run wide open. As we ride on board with Alex Tagliani, the question remains to be seen, can they catch a guy that has run so well as we have a close confrontation there?
There was contact.
Yeah.
Carpenter.
Can they catch the leader, guys?
I don't know about that, Jack, but they're going to try.
Darren Manning pulls to the inside of Ed Carpenter.
That was also Ryan Hunter-Reay looking to the inside of Matos. There's the battle. Look at that. Matos protecting.
Ooh. Matos went in there deep. That's for sure. That when you see somebody coming, and that's a red versus black, that's the same thing we saw Hunter-Reay do in St. Pete that paid big dividends. He ran his final segment on the alternate tires.
Remember how fast he was and just rolling speed those last 10 laps at St. Pete? When I talked to him this morning, he was thinking the same strategy. Can he make it stick, though? Can he use that advantage to get right on Matos and make the pass cleanly?
And Race Control has contacted Matos' team to say we are watching him for blocking. Remember, in this series, you cannot make a move in reaction to someone trying to get by you, so he has been given a warning.
A lap earlier, here's what happened.
Turn 9.
This was this back
There's
up here.
Marco.
Yeah.
Marco making the pass. A little bit of lockup. A little bit of lockup from Elio, and he bumped Marco.
Ooh.
And then teammates of Ed Carpenter and Hunter-Reay getting together, but no damage.
This is the place where if you're Hunter-Reay, you're like, okay, now what do I do? So that's where the contact came from. Yeah, that shows you the kind of force when you see the hand come off the wheel when they make the side-to-side contact.
Marco
He's running 8th.
On the gas.
Graham Rahal pits once again.
Which would be a drive-through penalty because of contact with pit road equipment and crew members. Thankfully, it did not appear as though that was serious, and it could have been much more so.
On board with Rafa Matos, running in 10th position. This is the Lusso Dragon team, and we know how Lusso Dragon, we know how that came about because Steve Lusso is one of the owners. But how did the Dragon part come in? Well, Jay Penske is the other owner of this team, and he liked to read when he was a kid, and his favorite story was Dragon. And so that's how the Lusso Dragon team got its name. You learn something every time you come to a race with old Bob, Robbie.
Thank you, Bob.
It may not be good information, but it's interesting.
You feel bad for me, don't you?
22 laps remaining. Elio Castroneves is back running 9th. Dario leads this race. Back in a moment on Versus. We're in the streets of Long Beach, but we're not that far away from Hollywood. I think that's what that says, isn't it? A little bit of haze in the atmosphere, let us say. But in any case, the 35th Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach is well underway. There's the setting that we have for this incredibly beautiful racing area. Dario Franchitti has led 30 of the 64 laps and has a 3.4 second advantage on Will Power, taking nothing away from him on the racetrack, but he has benefited from a couple of instances. He pitted on lap number 17, and right after the crew got him out, there was this incident, contact between Scott Dixon and E.J. Viso, that brought out a full course caution. Then on lap number 54, Dario pitted once again. Great work by the crew, and then right after that, Mike Conway got into the tires and also brought out a full course caution.
And that shows the difference for those when we go to Kansas next on an oval. Right after you pit, the last thing you want is a yellow, but on this type of racing, right after you pit, the one thing you're hoping for is yellow, and they both flew his way today.
Yep.
Let's get down to Jack Arute, our pit strategist.
And guys, remember that lap 17 pit stop was by design because they felt that they could get about 20 effective laps after the Firestone alternate red tires. But now you can see on the blacks, on the primary tires, he's built up a sizable lead, almost 4.2 seconds over Will Power in second place, actually 4.5 now. But once they got the benefit of that caution, and this is what I love about Chris Simmons and Chip Ganassi. They set about a fuel conservation race. They didn't take the bait from Marco Andretti. They just stayed out there, did their own thing. Now he's got a green light to go as fast as he can, and you can see the distance he's putting on Will Power in that Verizon Special.
Now, we've talked about Team Penske again, but let's mention it again. Will Power this is going to be his final race until we get to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. At least that's the thinking of Team Penske right now. He will not run 3 cars next week at Kansas. We're on board with Marco Andretti down the front stretch here.
Marco's on the red tires, so he's on the softer compound tires. Hopefully maybe let him run a little bit quicker right now, but the trade-off is the last 5 laps of this, those tires may fall off and he may have an absolute handful in here. As we stand here, now watch how bumpy it is in this turn 5. You kind of go up over a low rise and now he'll back steer. No, he didn't have to back steer there. Well, anytime we've watched somebody has to back steer. So that tells me he's got a pretty good race car across there.
And he seems to close in. You will always close in on people on the brakes just because of the time. If you're 0.2 behind somebody, you always close in as the speed goes down. But he does seem definitely on the alternate tires to be more racy the tighter the corner that you have. But he is one of the drivers that's running a little more downforce. So when you get on the long straightaways, that's where he's losing some time. If you look at the rear wing, if you ever get a closer shot at that, it has like a sawtooth gurney on the back of it, bigger. And boy, that was close with Castroneves behind.
Marco running 8th, Elio 9th, Matos there in 10th spot.
But surprisingly, riding along there with Marco, he wasn't working too hard on the wheel. I mean, yeah, you're working hard, but it wasn't all over the place. So his car has come to life.
They've settled it down.
Yeah, they have. Looks good. And I'm looking at the fast times. The fastest time out there has been set by Matos earlier. The second fastest lap in the race. Now, it was some 15 laps ago by Marco Andretti.
Down the backstretch, here's our GoDaddy biggest movers once again. Patrick from 22nd to 4th. Marco from 19th to 8th. Dan Weldon, great run for him, 14th to 5th. And Tony Kanaan has made up 8 positions from the start of the race. GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month. Back in just a moment to Long Beach. Dan Weldon is currently running 5th here on the streets of Long Beach. We go to an oval next time. And in 2007, Dan Weldon won that race for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. In 2008, he won it again. The King of Kansas, Dan Weldon, will watch him next week here on Versus as the IndyCar Series rolls on to its 3rd race of the year. That will be 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock Central on your radio or your TV dial.
Well, you can listen to it on the radio too.
And there we're getting a shot of Dan, and pretty, doing a really good job. We haven't really seen that much of him, but he's sitting here in 5th spot.
Yep.
You just got to keep it clean, bring it home, get some points. And he was pretty happy with his car the first practice session. Then in qualifying, he's like, we just lost our balance. Don't know where it went. He just said he'd get in the corner right there, and right as he's trying to come from the middle off the corner, the front would just get light. Obviously, they made some changes this morning, made it better. But the track is totally different right now, Jan, than it was yesterday. Than it was this morning in warm-up.
Yes, it's changing all the time. I also think it's worth noting right behind him, if you look at Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon, of course, is teammates to Dario Franchitti, and Dario Franchitti in almost every session out here has been dominant, and that's because they cannot drive the exact same setup because they have slightly different driving styles. So Dixon struggling more than Franchitti.
Let's check in with our pit reporters, going first to Lindy Thaxton.
Dario Franchitti was just told, hey, your fuel mileage is perfect right now. You will
Will Power in the number 11 car, he is, let's just say he needs a little help. They told him to back it down, so he needs a little help. Guys, I know they were looking for yellows. Right now we're not seeing any. I know that has to be a little bit disappointing for them. Now to Tony Kanaan.
Well, for Tony Kanaan and for Danica Patrick, as they have been almost all afternoon, it's been all about fuel conservation. That conservation has paid them some dividends. They may not be fast, but they're fine in terms of the amount of ethanol they need to finish this race. Fellas?
Well, I think if we hear that Will's really got to watch it, who's running right in front of Tony and Danica, they're gonna have a chance to pounce on him here.
Well, if you remember, they pitted a lap or two prior. Remember, we both said at the time that seemed a bit early. It was way early. You both and I said there had to be yellow. Well, they got some yellow, and even with that yellow, they got to save some more.
We are just 12 laps from the end of this race. Will Dario Franchitti be able to hold on for the victory? And we have Mario Moraes in the tire barrier. KB Racing Technology machine is buried deep in the tires.
You can see him moving his helmet a little bit in there. That's a good sign.
He was running in 16th position as the full course caution comes out once again.
Well, that fuel conversation we just had
just went out the window.
That went out the window. I'm glad we talked about that.
Boy, that car is way in there, isn't it? Right now.
I got the rumble strips. Yep, there are a set of rumble strips that actually will lift the front of the car. We saw that happen to a couple of people. There they are. Those 5 strips, if you catch the end of that, it actually lifts the tire off the ground, Robbie, and then nothing but all straight.
Yeah, I call those hot dog rumble strips.
Oh, yeah?
That's my nickname for them, hot dogs. But, you know, you hit those, you get up in the air, tire's not on the ground, you're not going to slow down, you're not going to turn.
Now, if you are just joining us and didn't know about what was announced yesterday, KB Racing Technology will run a second car in Indianapolis. And I don't know of anybody that isn't happy with the fact that Paul Tracy will be back at the 500. Dario Franchitti, Will Power, Tony Kanaan, Danica Patrick, and Dan Weldon after 73 laps on Versus. There's the harbor at Long Beach. Some yachts make this just a beautiful setting. Now that Mario Moraes car is still there. They got it out of the tires, but it has brought on the full course caution once again. Here comes the field through. Tony Kanaan running in 3rd position. Might mention also that we saw Ed Carpenter just before we go to break there in that same corner.
Which they got restarted.
Yep.
But lost a lot of time.
No contact.
We mentioned Paul Tracy returning to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Remember what happened in 2002? A controversial finish. And you might relate the comment that we heard yesterday about rookie orientation.
During that press conference, someone said, well, you know, Paul, you haven't run the Speedway for a while, so you come and do the rookie days. And he goes, well, I don't think they let former winners take part in that. So that brought down the house. He likes to talk the smack.
He does. Dario Franchitti, Will Power is second. Tony Kanaan, Danica Patrick, and Dan Weldon complete your top 5. Just a little more than 10 laps remaining in this event. Dixon, Briscoe, Marco, Elio, and Rafael Matos are the top 10. Then Ryan Hunter-Ray, Robert Dornbos, Vitor Meira, Alex Tagliani, and Graham Rahal, your top 15, and there is 16 through 20. Still under caution here at Long Beach, and some interesting developments during this caution period. There's damage on the front nose of Brian Briscoe's car.
And check this out. Scott Dixon stopped on the course, spun at the exit of, either was hit or spun, and that's what Briscoe got into. And Briscoe, that car's heavily damaged.
Well, we saw Dixon spinning. Here, let's watch it. Well,
he's on
there's I think Briscoe hits him.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So that's on the front straightaway, guys, under yellow.
But he He gassed it.
Okay, that's Briscoe up in front. We're on board with Marco. That's Dixon. Excuse me.
Wow.
Briscoe.
Did he think we were coming to a green flag?
No. Well, I can't imagine.
But did it look like he put rubber down when we were on board with Marco there?
You know what, Robbie? That's exactly what it looked like from my vantage point.
I don't know. Dixon
has lost a lap, but has restarted. Not a good start in defense of his championship. He's had a second race in which things have not gone his way.
Now, it is typical that when you come off the hairpin, even during a caution, you gas it to clean off the rear tires. That's typical. Then you back off and just kind of motor down the straightaway. But the only way you just come and nail somebody from behind would be if by some chance, like you said, Robbie, maybe he thought he was lighting it up because they were going back to green or something, but there was no indicator that we're anywhere close to going back to green.
Hey guys, can I disagree with Jan for just a minute, and that could get me in a lot of trouble?
No, go ahead, Jack. Please, go ahead.
If you remember, they were talking about how somewhat blind that corner is, and when you looked at that replay, if you're like down in that cockpit, Robbie, can you really see some of those corner workers waving those yellow flags? Or might you just be so full of anticipation that you try to stab and steer, and then you couldn't woe it in time?
You know, I would think he would have known that just via communication with his guys. You know, even if you're not looking at the yellow, there's communication.
Well, I was listening.
Yellow.
That's why I asked that, because I was listening on the radio, and you weren't hearing any communication from Roger.
Well, Briscoe has been called to pit lane for a penalty, 30-second penalty. The green flag comes out. Let's settle this thing here with 8 laps to go, 7 laps to go.
And it's worth noting, we had lots of reports up and down, people saving fuel, other people not. With all this extra, you can turn it up and go for it. So we're not looking at some people saving more fuel. Whatever you got now, let's show it. And what we're seeing is Dario's got the best thing going.
Right now, he's got enough of a gap, and we haven't even completed 1 lap. He's got enough of a gap where he doesn't need to even look in his mirrors. Just concentrate on what's in front of him, hitting his brake points, his turn-in points, and doing what he does best.
And you know what, though? If willpower can stay out of trouble, it's going to be a win in a way for him as well. We talked about how important it is for him to bring that Verizon Penske entry home, and he's not there yet. And as we can see, anything's happening today.
Lindy?
It's been a fun weekend for Dario Franchitti. Jim Clark, who won the 500 in 1965, the only other Scot to do that, is Dario's idol. He has a room of all Jim Clark stuff at his house. Well, Jim Clark has passed, but Dario was out at a restaurant here in Long Beach, recognized from all the photos. Jim Clark's old girlfriend went up to him. She came to the track yesterday, made his day. Also, today is his wife, Ashley Judd's birthday.
How about that?
Well, then.
And we
picked him to win. So
that's
it's
right.
Definitely going to be his day.
Yep.
I didn't pick him.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Not surprising, I might
And
add.
let's see, next car in line, next best winner, Will Power. So a couple people looking pretty good.
Yep.
I guess the points aren't going to look real good for me after today.
Hey, but it's not over.
No, sir.
I probably spoke a bit too soon.
You know, right now, Will Power is an incredibly fast driver. He can lay down as quick a laps as anybody. We've seen that from what he's done in qualifying. You know, right now, is he just saying, I can't make mistakes, I want to finish this thing? Or is he driving it?
No,
is he driving 110%?
I think the car's gone off a little bit. Okay. I think, ever since we saw that weird thing where we thought that he had been told, or thought for some reason because of his whole radio deal, that maybe it was going to full course caution, ever since then, he just hasn't seemed to have the same kind of
just
speed.
that extra little bit that says, oh, I can look on the inside of somebody.
And you know who knows that? Is Tony Kanaan, who's right behind him. And I think that we haven't seen the last of Tony Kanaan.
6th gear going into turn 1 here, 170 miles an hour.
That's Dan Weldon up ahead, and Marco was all over Dan a while ago during in the twisty area, 10 and 11.
And again, he's on the red tires, so when you get into that twisty area, you may have a little bit more grip that floats the momentum. Now, having said that, Weldon's also on the Firestone Reds.
And check Danica out. She's staying right with Tony Kanaan, and it's pretty common knowledge that the leader of that team, as far as expertise and experience, is Tony Kanaan. And Danica teammate is right there, not letting him get away.
Keep the big picture in mind here. You want to get points for the championship. You know, yeah, you want to get up and get on that podium. You don't want to do anything stupid getting there. We got about 5 laps to go. When does that all start to fall?
Yeah, if I'm
right now.
Oh, there it is. There it is. That was.
I guess that responded right. That is not where you try and make the move, Jan.
It's not.
No.
But
let's see if he tries to make it down here into turn number 1. He's got a pretty good run on Dan Weldon.
I hope Marco's car's okay, because there was contact. You don't want to slam on the brakes and have something fold on you.
Weldon holds him off, and now Elio's right behind Marco.
There was enough contact. I'd be worried if I was Marco.
Yeah, his left front, Jan.
All right, we got one more break to get in before the checkered flag, so stay with us. IndyCar nonstop here on Versus. The finish is coming up. It is almost a 4-second gap between the leader Dario Franchitti and the rest of the field. There is Dario, and here comes Will Power, Tony Kanaan, Danica Patrick, Dan Weldon, and Marco Andretti, and then Elio.
And I think this is the place we want to watch. I am not sure that Will Power has enough. Looks good here, but there have been a few laps previous to this during break where it looks like Tony Kanaan is really thinking about how he can maybe get a move on Will Power. There's a little daylight now, but he'd love to get by him.
And you know what he's been trying to assess this whole last couple laps is just where his strength is versus where Will's weakness is. And if he's ID'd anything, he's going to get close enough to pounce. And that's going to happen right about now.
Now there's a bet going on between Tony Kanaan and Dario Franchitti. If Dario wins the race, Tony Kanaan has to let his hair grow until he wins. And then when he wins a race, Dario is going to shave his locks.
And at the moment, it appears as though we're going to have hair growth as opposed to hair loss.
Boy, can you imagine Tony Kanaan with a bunch of afro type hair, you know, like they used to wear in the 60s and 70s? That'd be cool.
Well, it reverts back when Tony wins. Then I think it reverts back and he'll be okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So,
but
you know,
here is the most experienced driver in the field, Alex Tagliani.
And he's thinking about it. He's close enough. Oh, look at Ryan Hunter-Reay moving to the middle of the road.
Battle for 10th.
Oh, I was just missing a bump. But this is heated here. He's after him.
And part of that heat, I would venture to say that
Hunter-Reay had big push. He's going to lose that spot. That car just wouldn't turn.
And I think being on the Reds with 3 laps to go, I think he's got no grip left in him. And that's what they're designed to do.
It's not over.
No, he's holding them off. Let's see if he can get him in turn 1. Tagliani.
Wow.
Not going to be able to do it.
That's a downforce issue there because he was beat.
He flat out beat.
Yeah, he was dead in the water.
Yeah.
And he just out-dragged him down the straightaway. That's the difference between running some downforce and being trimmed out. And good for Ryan Hunter-Reay for not giving up.
Yeah, and Alex is all over the back. Look at Alex going over the big bumper there. It's okay.
Tagliani tries it again. And he made it.
He got it.
You know, he just forced the issue, and you saw the lockup from Ryan Hunter-Reay that opened the door. He's gone.
On his final lap is Dario Franchitti, returning to the IndyCars this year, and Ashley Judd is about to celebrate with him in victory lane. The checkered flag waves for Dario. It's his 9th career win in the IndyCar Series. His first on a street and road course in the IndyCar Series, and Vitor Meira is in the tires. Vitor was running 13th. Down to Lindy with Ashley.
Ashley obviously very emotional for this win. Ashley, I think your husband just said happy birthday.
Oh, what a sweetie.
Well, he's the one who did all the work, and he deserves this, and it's the good old days are here again. Not only did he drive a masterpiece, he did it against the best competition, I think, in the world, so I'm very excited for him. And about 25 laps to go, I got really nervous, and I said to myself, this is the Target Chip Ganassi team. Winning is what they do. So I was able to calm down a little bit, but I got very emotional.
This is his 7th time here. Did he say this morning, hey, I've got a good feeling about this, or is he pretty much all business?
He's a little bit of both. He felt really good on Friday, and he felt that especially after that practice where I think they ended up 6 quick, everyone else had put on new tires and gone a little bit faster, but he was still using tires that had already done half a race distance. So he was feeling good. But as y'all know, he's a very humble soul, and so he just kind of goes about, his work at the office and dispatches it quite calmly. But it's really amazing for the series to be reunited and for him to win here at Long Beach. It's something that I'm really grateful he has the opportunity to be a part of.
Go celebrate.
Dario's first win on a street and road course in the IndyCar Series, but it's his 10th win on such a facility, an open wheel rating dating back to Elkhart Lake in 1998. We'll talk to him in a moment on Versus. The place that every driver wants to be at the end of the race. It's Victory Lane at Long Beach, and the guy who is there is Dario Franchitti. He is about to emerge from the Target Chip Ganassi car, recording a win here in this very, very prestigious race. Helmet is coming off. He'll be getting out of the car, and we will go down for our Eyes on Victory Lane interview.
It's kind of ironic for Dario Franchitti. 2 previous times he finished second when he drove for other teams to a Target car. He comes back from a foray into Sprint Cup competition, driving for Chip Ganassi Team Target. And after finishing second to these red cars so many times, Dario, you get in the seat and you win one. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, the safety can't beat them, join them, right? Chip and I were talking about it yesterday. We finished behind the Target cars here, 98 and 99, Zanardi and Montoya. So to get it for the Target team today, it's awesome, man. It's a lot of fun.
From your perspective, what was the turning point, Dario, when you take a look? The guys had said that you were going to maybe try and pit a little early to get off the Firestone alternate red tires and go back to the blacks. What in your mind was the turning point in this race?
The timing of that first stop, Chris and Chip and Barry and Brad, they called it perfectly. They absolutely got it perfect, and the reds were just starting to go off a bit, and
hey, hold on.
And it came in.
Here's a guy who wants to say congratulations.
Nice. Sweet. That exercises a lot of demons there.
Yeah, it does. So, these guys called it perfectly. That got us track position. We were saving fuel, but still doing good lap times. And at the end, it was like, okay, let's go here. So it was all good.
All right, now you got to break the news to your old friend. You don't get to shave your locks, but because you won before your buddy TK, what's he going to look like as he lets his hair grow out?
Let me tell you, there's 2 things today. It's Ashley's birthday, so I'm going to wish happy birthday to my wife. This is for her. And my little buddy was driving around there kind of doing this, because next time you guys see Tony Kanaan, he's going to start growing his afro, and it's going to get progressively bigger as the year goes on. It's going to be interesting.
It's not going to be pretty. Big nose and a big head with big hair.
Tony's a handsome guy.
Okay. Guys?
Dario Franchitti records the 5th win at Long Beach for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. 25th IndyCar Series win for that team. Ashley, Judd, and Dario in Victory Lane at Long Beach.
Welcome back to the inaugural running of the IndyCar Series here at the Long Beach Grand Prix. I am with the man who finishes in second place, Will Power, and what a run it was for you, and it was a close call. The guys up in the booth thought you could run full rich, but that wasn't the case, was it?
Oh, I was saving like you wouldn't believe at the end there and trying to go fast. The problem is we had no telemetry and we had no radio, so I was trying to do it off my steering wheel, and it was tough, but a good race, good finish considering some of the problems we had.
So in 3 years of racing here, you finished in the top 3 all 3 times. Something about this course you like. It didn't start off well though with the communication problems. And then what happened when the yellow flags came out?
Well, yeah, I could hear a couple of words. I heard yellow. I heard full course yellow, turn 1. So I backed off, and 2 people went past after we'd gone through the complex. So I don't know what happened there.
Well, congratulations, bud. Now let's turn it over to the lady.
who has the guy who was up your tailpipes there at the end, Lindy Thaxton.
Tony, first let's talk business. This was the first time that 4 AGR drivers that not one has started in the top 10, but it sure didn't finish that way.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great teamwork. I think we got lucky with the yellow, but kind of actually, because if it comes a lap earlier, Danica would have won the race. But I mean, a great job for the team. We had a tough start, a tough qualifying, but I think it was good for all of us.
All right, let's talk some beauty. What's going to happen now?
Well, guys, take a look. This is my hair now, so I'm going to let it grow until I win. So I guess I'll win Kansas again next week, and then I get to shave my hair and his head. So we'll see. I hope we can do that.
Thank you very much. Going to be interesting. Down to Jack with Danica.
Danica, great run today.
Thanks.
You know, I mean, to be as far back as you were and beyond fuel consumption the way you were, how tough is that for a driver?
Well, you know, I think that actually in the race, you know, it kind of pays off to be on fuel conservation mode a little bit, because they're long stints and we're not used to running, you know, that many laps at once on the tires. So I kind of think it helps keep it underneath the car a little bit. But, you know, it was a great job by everybody. Great job on strategy. Great job in the pits. You know, I made a little mistake and Will got by me, and then when it went yellow and Tony hit the blend line, just where it is on the track is so unfair. I mean, I love Tony, he's a great driver, and he was, you know, we were both fast, but, you know, it's not really fair where the blend line is, because I would have, you know, he would have never beat me into the corner, but it is what it is, and, you know, I need to be very happy coming from 22nd to 4th, and everybody did a good job.
Absolutely. And guys, I want to show you one thing. We saw a lot of drivers, male drivers with blisters.
Oh, yeah. Wait, other hand.
Let's see both hands there. Not bad, huh, guys?
I don't know.
Good job by Danica Patrick, finishing in 4th position here. Let's go down to Robbie.
Well, Scott Dixon, things went from bad to worse, didn't it? What happened there under the yellow?
Well, I think, you know, the day started already from that, and you know, the first pit stop we made a bit of a bobble there, and a few guys short-filled and popped ahead of us. And then we had that deal where if some of those guys jumped in under the yellow, including Dario, which it didn't go yellow until me and Viso made contact. So, you know, they were lucky on that break. But, yeah, just a bad day sort of tumbled into more bad things. And then at the end of it, Briscoe collected me under yellow, which, you know, was unfortunate.
Did you have a word with him to find out what happened?
No, I haven't seen Ryan yet, but, you know, we're good mates, and obviously he's not going to do anything like that on purpose. And, you know, I kind of did a similar thing to him, I think, at Watkins Glen last year. So, you know, it happens.
I'm sure you're glad to get these road courses out of the way and head to the Oval. You looking forward to Kansas next week?
No, I love the road courses. You know, we've just had a really rough time. You know, I think it's fantastic for Dario. It was a great finish for the team. Really happy because we have a lot of Target people here this weekend, so he definitely put on the right show for them. But looking forward to Kansas. When you got a fast car, you can definitely make it to the front on an oval. So, you know, hopefully we can get some, you know, some good points there.
Well, you've had luck in the first 2 races. Unfortunately, it's been all bad luck. Good luck in Kansas.
Thanks, man.
Back to you, Bob.
He finished 16th at St. Petersburg and 15th here in Long Beach. We will be back to wrap it up in just a minute. Dario Franchitti wins the 35th annual Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Back at Long Beach, California, our thanks to the promoter of this race, Jim McCallion, the mayor, Bob Foster, Chris Esslinger, everybody who has made our visit here to Long Beach a very, very enjoyable one. Let's go down to Lindy Thaxton, who's with Elio.
Elio, what was it like to be back in that car?
Oh, let me tell you, first, to see this crowd, you know, give me such a great positive energy. It was a little emotion, to be honest, and soon I was strapped in the car. It was so much fun, and I want to thank again everybody to give me such a great positive support, and again, to be back in the car, to be back on racing, to talk about racing. Man, for about half a lap, we did not finish in the podium for half a lap. Unfortunately, saved too much fuel. But let me tell you, it was a great strategy. The team did a fantastic job, and I'm so happy to be back. I thought I was going to be really tired, but hey, I'm ready for the next one.
I was going to say, this morning you were saying you were pretty sore.
I was sore. I was like, man, my muscle is hurting. And but, you know, it's one of those things that it's been 6 months. And after that, I was able to get past, but make some pass as well. So it was a lot of fun. This is what I love, and I'm so glad to be back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Elio Castroneves finishes in 7th position here this afternoon. Let's take a look at the final rundown. 4 different teams again in the top 5, with AGR this week the only team placing 2 in the top 5.
I think when you look at AGR, what a fantastic turnaround. Sure, we heard from Danica Patrick, we heard from Tony Kanaan that some of that was pit strategy, but that wasn't the whole deal. They worked really hard overnight, got those cars going. That was refreshing.
They were on race pace. They just didn't fall into it. They got there and they held it. And you know, willpower. He did what he had to do. He focused on this race, got a podium finish. Good job for him.
And we found out that he didn't get a full load of fuel. That's why he had to save it.
14 cars were on the lead lap at the conclusion of the race. The best IndyCar Series finish for Will Power, Rafael Matos, and Robert Dornbos. And Alex Tagliani equals his best finish in the IndyCar Series. Here are the point standings as we head to the first oval, Kansas, next Sunday, 4 o'clock here on Versus. Franchitti with the advantage over Will Power, who will set out that race next weekend. So Ryan Briscoe, Tony Kanaan, and the others will have an opportunity to really jumble up the point standings. Thanks for joining us here. Coming up next is Sports Soup. And that, of course, will be followed by the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. That will be game number 3. And then, as I said, next Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, it's the Kansas Indy 300. You can find IZOD at your local Macy's. And for more information on IndyCar, log on to Versus.com. Our congratulations to the winner of today's race, Dario Franchitti. For Jan Beekes, Robbie Buell, Lindy Thaxton, Robbie Floyd, and Jack Arute, I'm Bob Jenkins. Thanks for joining us from the streets of Long Beach, California.